Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Brian Wilson, and you're listening to The Drive 307 on this Wednesday, the 22nd day of February. You can listen to The Drive on the air. You can listen on our WTN app. You can watch on SuperTalk TV on our Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch pages. Let's all Twitch together. And you can find today's show prep at yourfarm.com. You might want to look at this. President Joe Biden has slipped going up the stairs to Air Force One again.
Again?
Yes. I don't know how many times this has now happened. He's just walking up the steps, and he slipped. If you want to see that, it's right at the top of yourfarm.com. URFARB.com. You find the link to Your Farm at 997WTN.com. I mean, given that, there's a lot of talk about Joe Biden and whether or not he is he really up for a run? I don't think he is. And I think it's something akin to elder abuse to force this man to run for re-election. I don't know if you're forcing him or not, but one way or the other, it's not a good idea. I guess from one standpoint, it would be because, I think he's beatable. But on the other hand, I mean, really, honestly, the idea that this man wants to run and would be 82 when he started his second term and 86 when he got done. So a lot of questions about whether or not he's going to now run. And I have not heard this until today. But today there are actually a couple of stories out there that suggest that maybe, just maybe, this guy may not run. Now, nobody has this locked down solid. Let me tell you what we have here, okay? This is from the Washington Examiner. Biden backup plan. Democrats privately planning life after Joe if he quits ahead of 2024. Now, I haven't seen this headline, and today I see it twice. For months, many political insiders have been operating under the assumption that President Joe Biden will run in 2024. Now, some of his allies are reportedly planning for the seemingly implausible possibility that he drops out. Though Biden has made moves to lay the groundwork for a campaign debut, such as recent campaign-style stops in Florida and Wisconsin, he scarcely talks about 2024 plans with confidence, keeping his focus trained more on the day-to-day duties of the presidency. Instead, sources have told Politico. An inertia has set in. One Biden confidant told the news outlet, it's not that he won't run, and the assumption is that he will, but nothing is decided and won't be decided until it is. So there you have it. Let's look at here's the actual Politico article that has been referred to. Biden may not run, and top Dems are quietly preparing. The president no longer seems absolutely certain to go for a second term, leaving his party, his top aides, and potential candidates unsure about 24 and very quietly mulling a plan B. And then they go right into, well, who might be the plan B? Klobuchar, Democrat of Minnesota. Oh, yeah, she's lovely. Who plans to seek re-election to her Senate seat in 2024, has been keeping up relations with donors far outside of Minnesota, holding a fundraiser in Philadelphia. In the event, Klobuchar was asked if she planned on running for the president in 2024. According to a person in the room, she said she expects the president to run for re-election. Elizabeth Warren also running for re-election as a senator, a dynamic that allows her to pledge support for Biden, bank her own cash, communicate with party leaders on her own behalf, and change directions if she need to. Sanders, wow, okay, exchanging one old fart for another. Sanders, who ran for the White House in 2020 and 2016, got a new book out. He's 81. He has said he would not challenge Biden in a primary, but has not ruled out a run in 2024. Sanders' former campaign chair, Representative Ro Khanna, says that he believes that Sanders is preparing to run if Biden doesn't. So he goes on and on and on, talking about, this possibility that Biden won't run. Again, it came out of nowhere. I haven't seen it before. Everybody is expecting that he will run, but now I'm wondering if there are whispers or hints. See, what I know about how these things happen in Washington is these stories don't come out of thin air. They come from somewhere. They come from somebody whispering to a reporter and saying, they're starting to prepare in case he doesn't. We're not sure the old guy's going to get in. And then you see stories like this. But you also, at the same time, see a story like this in red state. Back to the basement, Joe. Biden reportedly wants 2024 campaign headquarters in his Wilmington home. Oh, that was going to happen. He's gonna run another basement campaign. He's not going to get out. He's not going to mix and mingle. While it's hard to figure out what goes on in Joe Biden's vacuous mind, one thing seems clear, according to RedState.com. The 46th president of the United States delusionally believes he's doing a bang-up job for the American people. Given that irrational reality, Joe likely thinks if it ain't broke, don't fix it regarding the 2024 election. And they said they felt like the basement campaign worked in 2020 and would work in 2024. As reported by the New York Times, Biden is reportedly pushing to locate his 2024 campaign headquarters at his home in Wilmington, Delaware. All right. We'll watch that and see what happens. Let's talk about the other side of the equation. There is no doubt that Donald Trump is running, and today he made a trip to East Palestine, Ohio, because, the Biden administration, the president is off halfway around the world, and the Secretary of Transportation doesn't seem to be able to find a jet to go there. I don't know what's going on with him. You can find a jet to go anywhere else, but he can't go there. I guess he's going to go tomorrow is what I hear. Former President Donald Trump visited East Palestine on Wednesday, where he delivered truckloads of bottled water following a train derailment that left the small town in disarray. And he told people there,
"We have told you loud and clear, you are not forgotten. You are not forgotten. We stand with you, we pray for you, and we will stay with you in your fight to help answer, and the accountability that you deserve. We'll have that accountability. It'll all be out there very clearly."
So he brought in 13 pallets of water. That comes to 14,000 bottles of water for the small town, and other things that might be needed. And there you have it. He's taking advantage of a political situation, saying, look, if I were president, I would come see you. So there you have that. A former president starting to make moves on the campaign trail. And as long as we're talking about 2024, remember the other day, Nikki Haley came out and announced that she would challenge Trump for the Republican nomination. Here we go. A former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley, and her support doubled among Republicans in a post-campaign launch boom. Well, it's not much of a boom. Some 6% of Republicans voters now back Haley, up from 3% the same pollster pegged a week prior. She is way behind Donald Trump and way behind Florida Governor DeSantis in recent polls. But more significantly, Haley's popularity exploded among Republican voters, soaring to a 62% favorability, which was up from 17% before her campaign launch. So her message was resonating. They just don't see her as apparently the person who will ultimately be the nominee. I think many people say she may be running for the vice president nod, and that may well be true. That certainly suggests that she has a favorable feeling among Republicans, but I don't know that they feel like she's the one. On the Democrat side of the equation again, Joe Manchin said he's not running for president in 24. Actually, there's a couple of different stories out. This one from the Washington Examiner. Joe Manchin said on Wednesday he's not running for president today as speculation swirls on his 2024 plans. He's not yet revealed whether he'll run for re-election to the Senate, but told talk radio host, oh, I love this guy's name. We've talked about this before. His name is Hoppy Kercheval. I want a cool name like Hoppy. But apparently Hoppy is a big radio star in West Virginia. And he said that he told Hoppy Kercheval that his White House aspirations could change down the line 2 years from now, a year and a half from now. You don't know who the Democrat and Republican nominees are going to be. And my goal is to bring the country together. I think what he's aiming and what he's hinting at there is an independent run, perhaps. The other story just simply says he won't run. This is from Fox News. I'm not running for president of the United States, Manchin told Metro News during a radio interview broadcast from the state capitol in Charleston. So there you have that. And then there is this. Have you heard of this guy, Vivek Ramaswamy? Vivek Ramaswamy is sitting in his home in the heartland that holds, according to this story from the Washington Examiner, of sending more presidents to the White House than any other. The biotech entrepreneur is multitasking like any father working from a home office, simultaneously enjoying his toddler darting back and forth and getting ready to launch his run for the Republican nomination for president the next day. So this was the day before he announced. He announced last night on the Tucker Carlson show. Now, I don't know much about Vivek Ramaswamy, but I can tell you this. I was sort of knocked out by what he had to say his campaign would be based on. Now, I don't know that this guy can get the nomination, but boy, do I like what he has to say. And if you haven't heard this, I want you to hang on for a moment, because in a moment I'm going to play about 2 minutes of it, and then we're going to open up the phones, and I want you to tell me what you think about this message. Is this a winning message? So if you want to queue up, it's 615-737-9986. Right now, 19 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on SuperTalk 99.7. Have you noticed how unreliable things have become these days? Like when someone tells you, oh, it'll be ready at 4 o'clock, and then you get there at 4 o'clock, and guess what? It's not ready. People are really tired of that kind of stuff. And if you've had it with unreliable vehicle repair shops, why don't you try Eurofix? Eurofix turns unreliable into reliable, and Eurofix has your vehicle ready when it's really supposed to be ready, so you're not standing around tapping your toe. Eurofix repairs all European cars with quality that beats the dealer without dealer pricing. That's because dealer repair shops are designed to pay virtually all of a dealership's overhead, and that's a lot of money. Why would you want to pay for that? At Eurofix, reliable means a 3-year nationwide warranty plus a free loaner car with every repair appointment. Make sure you call ahead, because loaner cars are very popular. And if you're tired of unreliable repair shops, come to where it is reliable. Eurofix, family-owned for some 24 years. Call 844-EUROFIX or visit myEurofix.com and tell them your friend and radio buddy Brian Wilson sent you.
Former President Donald Trump in East Palestine, Ohio, and another battle won in the war on human trafficking here in the mid-state, and a shooting in the Midtown. Caught on footage. That and more, 3:30 right here. SuperTalk 99.7 WTN.
It's 24 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on SuperTalk. Brian Wilson in the chair and on the air. We're talking about 2024 and just sort of giving you a run-through on everybody. I mean, started with President Biden taking a trip up the stairs. That was not pretty.
You know, they put a handrail on those steps for a reason.
For a reason, that's right. Yeah. I mean, that's exactly right. But then last night on Tucker Carlson, this guy, who I don't know that he has much of a chance, but I just adore, I really, really like his message. I think increasingly we're getting to the point where it's going to be an election on versus woke versus non-woke. And this guy, he's saying the right things. I mean, I get jazzed by this. And I'd like to know what your thoughts are if you hear a little bit of it. 615-737-9986. This is Vivek Ramaswamy running for the Republican nomination for president on Tucker Carlson last night.
We are in the middle of this national identity crisis where we have celebrated our diversity and our differences for so long that we forgot all of the ways we're really just the same as Americans, bound by a common set of ideals that set this nation into motion 250 years ago. And that's why I'm proud to say tonight that I am running for United States president to revive those ideals in this country, those basic rules of the road. Meritocracy, the idea that you get ahead in this country not on the color of your skin, but on the content of your character. The idea that you are allowed to speak freely, yes, to be wrong sometimes, as long as your neighbor gets the same courtesy in return. The idea that the people who we elect to run the government, by the way, are the people who actually run the government. And the reason that I'm running for president is to revive those ideals. And I believe deep in my bones they still exist, that most Americans still believe in them, but we need to rediscover that. And the only way we can do it is by start talking openly again. I think we need to put merit back into America in every sphere of our lives. I mean, merit in who gets into this country. Let's start with that, okay? I think more people like my parents can be a good thing for this country. But people whose first act of entering this country as a law-breaking one, we should say a hard no to that. Not just who gets in, but also who gets ahead. Decimating affirmative action. It has been a national cancer. One of my top priorities will be to end affirmative action in every sphere of American life. Lyndon Johnson issued an executive order that requires anyone who does business with the U.S. government to adopt race-based quota systems. Any Republican president since Lyndon Johnson could have taken a pen and crossed that out. We haven't done it yet. I think that's the kind of courage we're going to need to muster, to go after these sacred cows, from woke religion in the form of affirmative action to this new climate religion, which is completely shackling the American economy and culture. We need to take the most sacred cows of these alternative secular religions, and I'm sorry to say this, take them to the slaughterhouse, because that's what it's going to take for this national revival where we stop apologizing for what it means to be American.
I just think that hits the mark. I mean, I love that message, especially the part about America needs to become a meritocracy. Because what we're seeing now on the other side of the equation is the antithesis of that. That we're going to select people based on the color of their skin. We're going to check off boxes. We're going to, in the name of something called equity, not equality, but equity. Everybody gets a good outcome here, even if you're not the most qualified person for the job. What a concept. Now, this is a guy who came over with his parents were immigrants from India. He went to Harvard and Yale, knows a little bit about, since he grows up in Cincinnati and understands, the life there in the Mistake by the Lake. But he's absolutely... he's got a message that I think is one of the right messages. What do you think about it? 615-737-9986. Kelly and Bethpage, you're on with Brian on the drive. Kelly, I just need to say I'm not endorsing the guy. I just love the message. I thought it really hit it out of the park. What's your thought?
Well, the message is great, but I have a thought for you. Tell me what you think about this, Brian. I think it's just a great campaign strategy to throw people that are brilliant, like Vivek up there, just for the conversation. I think the RNC should throw several people up there just so they can create the debate conversations that we're not going to get. If we just got Trump and we got DeSantis, they're going to just try to rip these two men apart. So now you throw a bunch of people that can create a conversation so we can at least get a conversation on these debate tables. What do you think about that?
Well, I think, if he makes the cut during the debates, there's always a cutoff. You have to have a certain amount in the polls or you can't make the debate stage. You bring that guy to the debate stage and it will generate a lot of conversation. And I think it is healthy for us to have that conversation. I'm so tired of the woke stuff. I noticed that DeSantis is making a big thing and talking about, Florida is where woke comes to die. He keeps talking about that, and that's his message. And I think that's going to be part of what he is selling. We had the whole thing with Nikki Haley seemed to be, we need a new generation. We need a bunch of younger people. That's her message. Trump will run, as Trump does on whatever, comes into Trump's mind, and he's leading in all of the polls among Republicans. If you do any kind of poll of Republican primary voters, likely primary voters, Trump is going to win. It looks right now. And so I'm excited for the debate. I'm excited to have us strike out and have, really, really bold ideas, like going after this whole woke stuff in a huge way that says, you know what, we really should get back to what our founding fathers wanted us to be. And what if they wanted us to be, no doubt about it, was they wanted us to be a country where everybody had an equal opportunity, and it was what you made of it. And that the people who had put in the hardest work, who had the great ideas, were the people who succeed. Because life doesn't owe you squat. And all we want our government to do is level the playing field and make it a place where you can have opportunity. I love that message so much. It just resonates with me. I don't know whether this guy is a flash in the pan. I don't know whether he's going to go anywhere, but I sure do like that message. It's 30 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on SuperTalk.
Thirty minutes after the hour of 3 o'clock, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Right now, 77 degrees in Music City. Wind advisory in effect until midnight tonight. Weather and traffic coming up just a few minutes. Former President Trump in East Palestine, Ohio today telling residents there who've been affected by the toxic train wreck that they are not forgotten. Trump also saying he brought bottled water with him.
And I'm pleased to announce that we've helped coordinate the delivery of the water and bottled water, as well as the tractor trailers full of it. We have big tractor trailers full of water. I think you're going to have plenty of water for a long time, maybe.
The former president also claimed that the FEMA aid was triggered by his decision to visit the site. And in Middle Tennessee, another battle won in the war on human trafficking.
The Sumner County Sheriff says 4 men are in custody after a sex sting in conjunction with the TBI Human Trafficking Unit. Authorities say these men answered fake ads on websites where people go to find sex to pay for. One of the men, Daniel Barrias of Laverne, allegedly wanted to have sex with minors. Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Some more crime here in Tennessee. There was a shooting on Demonbreun Street last night. Around 1 a.m. is when it happened. It was caught on security cameras. The footage shows a Camaro leaving a parking lot, then passing by a group of men who exchange words with the driver. The car then pulls a U-turn, and a man in that group and the driver quickly exchange gunfire while the driver heads away east. A security guard witnessed the whole shooting. Police said the 25-year-old driver was dropped at a local hospital shortly after the shooting with a gunshot wound to his leg, and they're still searching for the other shooter, who they have now released a photo of. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Let's talk about Sylvan Health. You know, what is it? A personalized nutrition service covered by insurance. That's right. Let's dive in here now. Nutrition can improve the way you feel. It can help you lose weight. It can help you manage health conditions like high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, all of which are directly related to the foods that we eat. And this is where Sylvan Health comes in. Sylvan connects you with a registered dietitian to help you put a nutrition plan together without forcing you to cut out all the foods that you really love. Your dietitian will provide tools such as meal plans, shopping lists, restaurant guides. A few small tweaks to your diet can go a very long way. Appointments are done via video calls or over the phone, so you don't need to travel in for face-to-face meetings. And here is the best part. The service is covered by insurance. That's right, 90% of patients have zero out-of-pocket costs. So schedule your appointment today. Call this number, 833-279-5826, or visit sylvanhealth.com. That's SYLVAN, to take your first step toward looking and feeling better, utilizing the power of great nutrition.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. I've been teaching investing on Nashville airwaves for over 20 years with the Investor Coaching Show. And in that time, I taught a lot about how markets work and how we invest money and academic principles of investing money. But I've also talked an awful lot about how to avoid the mistakes that people often make with their money. Think about it. A lot of people sold out of the market at the worst time when COVID struck, or when TARP happened, the Troubled Asset Relief Program, or gold, they invested in that at the worst time. Bailing out of the market because they were worried about Y2K or 9/11, or jumping into energy stocks, or jumping into cryptocurrency. One of the things that I like to do is educate investors, because I believe that the more educated you are, the more confident you are, and the more confident you are, the more successful you can be as an investor. Now, I not only do that on our radio show, but we do that in our offices around the Nashville region, 10 offices. To learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call. Or you can call 615-851-1950.
It's 38 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on SuperTalk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy, bringing you news and information you can use to, keep you up to date on what's happening in the world around you. We want to drive you home safely. We want to drive the liberals absolutely crazy, and then along the way, drive home a few salient points. That's what we're up all for every day right here on The Drive. I want to turn to a look at the economy. The S&P notched another day of losses. And what happened today was we got to look at, again, this is sort of dull stuff, but it is important because really we all are, interconnected to the economy. And when there's news about the economy, it really does have an impact on how you live and how you make your way through life, right? I mean, inflation, for example, that's all part of the economy, and it's impacting your life now. It really has an impact on what kind of foods you can put on the table, and the kind of roof you can put over your head, and the kind of clothes you can put on your back. I mean, it really gets down to stuff that really hits where you live. So they launched a fourth day of losses because the Fed minutes. The Fed has meetings, and then later they release the minutes. I don't know why. In business world, it's a big deal. People scrutinize the minutes to find out where the Fed is, where their head is with regard to things like interest rates. Minutes from the Federal Reserve's latest meeting seem to confirm that while inflation is easing, it's too early to expect a pivot just yet. The worst inflation may be in the rear view, but it remains well above the Fed's target. Bottom line is that many market headwinds aren't going away, and investors should expect volatility to stay as they parse over the impact rates for being higher for longer. We will have that. It seemed to saying that the impact of the rates is going to be higher, and it will be that way for a bit longer. Shares of Intel retreated more than 2% on that. Let's see. That's different stuff. Okay, so there's that. The interest rates are going to remain high. I mean, they went from being 3/4 every time they took a hike. It would be 3/4 of with what they call 75 basis points, 0.75%. Then it went to 50, half a point. That's a half a point. Then down to a quarter point. But we're still hitting inflation is very strong, and I think that quarter hike was a bit optimistic, perhaps. And then the data came out, and they realized, we have not shut down this economy yet. Sort of a weird thing that you got to kill the economy by raising the interest rates in order to solve the problem of inflation. I mean, the general thinking is there are no real good ways to bring inflation under control that doesn't harm the economy, doesn't harm people. But the general thinking is the hikes in the interest rates are less harmful to people than having to deal with, increased cost of goods where you live, inflation. So they're going to continue to do that. And yesterday, the numbers that we got in the market look really, really dark as people were absorbing that news and the markets were reacting. And this is the kind of thing that makes me very nervous. Big retail cautious forecasts are spooking Wall Street. Forecast from Walmart and Home Depot made for a grim day. This is yesterday, Tuesday. The mega retailers' predictions of weakening economy and dips in consumer spending sent markets tumbling as Wall Street seemed to realize that the Federal Reserve's campaign to quell inflation could yet lead to dun dun dun. I should have thrown that. Inflation. When written about the remarkable strength of the U.S. consumer quite a bit here, but according to Census Bureau data, retail sales in January jumped 3%. Consumer spending accounts for about 70% of America's gross domestic product, but it's nearly impossible for the economy to enter a recession as long as consumer spending is growing. So that is a bit of good news. But all of these companies are starting to put out warnings saying, you know what, we're starting to see a slowdown in spending. Walmart and Home Depot stoked those fears with executives from both companies giving a cautious guidance for the year ahead and warning that consumers were spending more on services and less on non-essential goods. The consumer is very pressured, wrote Walmart CFO John Rainey. And if you look at economic indicators, balance sheets are running thinner and savings rates are declining to previous periods. So that's why we take a pretty cautious outlook for the rest of the year. Home Depot said it expects revenue will be little changed in the year ahead, and earnings per share will be down by mid-single-digit percentage. But they also point out they're seeing things with the consumer that make them very, very nervous. When you talk about things like Walmart and Home Depot, these are looked at as bellwether stocks. They are looked at as companies that when they start sending up the flares, you need to pay attention because these are the earlier indicators of when something is going to go south, when something might not quite go the way they thought it was going to go. And so this is the thing that sort of scares the markets and portends perhaps that we are heading into a mild recession. I don't want to talk down the economy. I would like nothing better than to be able to tell you that it's all going to be fine and we're all going to work our way out of this. But inflation is still very hot, and the employment numbers are still very hot, which means that the Fed has to do more in order to sort of cool the economy, and that means higher interest rates, and that's pain. That's real pain for people who are now increasingly having to go to credit cards just to be able to put food on the table. Why? Because inflation. See, we're in a really difficult thing that's hard to get out of. It's a spiral. It's wage inflation spiral. So how does that work? Let me just see if I can explain it briefly. You have a hard time finding people to work at your company. What do you have to do to get good employees? You got to raise how much you're paying them. So you say, okay, now instead of $12 an hour, we're going to have to pay $15 an hour. All right, so you get some people to come to work for you. But now these people are costing you more, right? What do you have to do to pay those people? You got to raise the cost of your good or service. That's inflation. And it's being caused by the fact that you're having to pay your employees more. In most businesses, if you ask people, the most important and most expensive thing they have in their budget is paying people. Salary is usually the biggest item on most companies' on ledgers. Okay, well, if we're paying people more, we can't absorb that. We have to charge more for our product. If we're making blivets, we have to up the price of blivets. And so that means that you have to pay more when you go to buy the next blivet that you need. And we all can agree, you can't have too many blivets. It's important to have a blivet in every home.
I've got one in every room.
Well, that's right.
Yeah,
and I've got two right here in my studio. And so, that's how you get into this cycle. Okay, so then people say, well, I'm going to have to pay more for these things. I need a raise. And so you go to the boss and say, I got to have a raise, man. I can't make ends meet. It's just, it's killing me out here. Or I'm going to have to go find another job that will pay me more. One way or the other, that cycle continues. You need more money. The boss gives you more money. He has to charge more for the product. And you have to pay more for the products that you need for your family. And so you need another raise. That you get into that wage spiral, that wage inflation spiral, and it's incredibly difficult to get out of. So I expect that when the Fed next meets, we're going to see things where they say, okay, here's the deal. We've got to go back to raising these interest rates even higher. It hurts business in so many ways. It hurts individuals right now in so many different ways. All of this, it seems to me, is right on the bubble. Just right almost at the edge of being something that could be really bad. And I think that's what you're hearing from these executives from places like Walmart and what is it, Walmart and Home Depot. You are hearing them sort of send up the flare. It's getting to the point where people can't spend money because they don't have enough to go out and buy the things that they would like to have for their homes. Now they're just spending on absolute essentials. Well, there's a lot of things that are made in America that are not absolute essentials. And when you people start buying those things, we really take a hit. I don't know. I hate to be gloomy, but my sense of it is, and I'm not an economist, I'm just a guy who plays one on the radio from time to time. My sense of it is that we really are headed for perhaps a rough second quarter. That's the way it feels to me. So you'd be wise to, get your affairs in order to see if you can ride that through, because I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. I don't think it will be a deep recession. I think it will be a shallow recession, but I think it will be there nonetheless. And the problem, actually, we may be in a situation where by the time we actually acknowledge that we're in a recession, we may be climbing out of it. So buckle up. That's what we do here on The Drive every day. We buckle up. 49 minutes now past the hour of 3 o'clock on SuperTalk 99.7 WTN. All right, let's talk about United Structural Systems. They're a good company, and if you've got a problem with waterproofing or foundation issues in your home, you need to call these people. You need peace of mind. This is not your area of expertise, right? We can all agree on that. And what you're going to find is, well, it could be something big that needs to be fixed. That's true. Or it could be a small problem that if you don't fix it now will become a bigger problem later and more expensive to solve. Or it could be nothing at all, but you need good advice. Well, United Structural System has over 23,000 satisfied residential customers. And here's how it will work. They'll come out at your house. They'll take a look at what you've got going on. They'll give you their best recommendation of how to make it better. And then, you have to make a decision. You won't pay a penny until the job is done and you're completely satisfied. Financing is available. Lifetime warranties guaranteed for the life of the home. USS, the goal here is to take the stress out of home repair. That's right. They guarantee their best. Call USS, serving Middle Tennessee, Southern Kentucky, Northern Alabama, online at USSTN.com, or call this number, 615-227-2275.
The war in Ukraine and Russia's war crimes and some possible legislation in the volunteer state concerning TikTok. That and more coming up 4 o'clock. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
You know, there's a reason why you should try out looking at the show on what we call what is it called? The SuperTalk TV. I'm sorry. I can never remember the name. I need to write that down. You should watch it because you never know what's going to happen in the background in my studio. I mean, like right now, the people that are watching on SuperTalk TV are getting, a glimpse of Middle Tennessee's best-known French bulldog.
That's right.
Grogu, who come up. Oh, nice yawn there.
She's
Grogu.
real interested in things.
Yeah, she's real interested in doing this, and she wanders around the studio sometimes. If you listen, sometimes you can hear her shake her collar.
Yeah.
But she comes here and hangs out with me in the studio while I do the show most days.
Another yawn.
Right now, I can barely keep her awake. She's ready to go to sleep. That's right. Well, that's a precious. That's
so
tough.
cute.
Isn't she a sweetheart? She
Yeah.
is. She's the best dog ever. She's the best dog ever. I read a story, though, about this French bulldog the other day. It's apparently the bulldog from hell, French bulldog from hell. The dog has been, given. He went to a shelter because the first couple that had him said, "We can't do anything with this bulldog. This dog is incorrigible."
Mm-hmm.
And so they put out an ad, and then the dog went out to a new family. It was about 2 weeks. They brought it back and said, well,
Oh, my God.
please, no more French bulldog. We can't take this. This dog is out of control. And they were looking, I think it went out 3 times and was now back for a 4th time.
Yeah. It's kind of
Tells you a little
sad.
something about, well, it is, except, they're a very challenging breed. They really are. I mean, and I've done Jack Russell Terriers, and they're very challenging, but not as challenging as a French bulldog.
She doesn't look
At
like
least
much of a challenge right now.
Yeah.
That's right.
pretty
Well,
easy.
I'll tell you, though, at least with the Jack Russells, at least they're smart.
No, that was a low blow.
Dow Jones Industrial down 84, S&P down 6, NASDAQ down, or make that up, 14. Mixed board today. Brought to you by Beacon Capital Management. Learn more at beaconcm.com. It is now, let's call it 58 minutes past the hour of 3 o'clock on Super Talk.
It's 4 o'clock. I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Right now, 78 degrees. Another day with summer-like temps, except for that wind advisory in effect here until midnight, and that's for all of Middle Tennessee. Weather forecast, traffic report headed your way just a few minutes. The State Department has said it's determined that Russian forces have committed war crimes in Ukraine. During today's State Department briefing, the department's ambassador at large for global criminal justice, Beth Van Schok, talked about that determination.
Information indicating that members of Russia's forces committed execution-style killings of Ukrainian men, women, and children, tortured civilians in detention, including through beatings, electrocutions, and mock executions, raped women and girls, and alongside other Russian officials, deported hundreds of thousands of Ukrainian civilians, including children.
Over to some possible legislation in Tennessee. A Republican Senator John Lundberg is trying to pass a law that would ban TikTok from Tennessee state colleges and universities. It would prohibit campus internet networks from providing access to any video company that is not based in the United States. The law is being discussed today at a Senate committee meeting. And some advice for drivers as 43 states face storm alerts from California to Connecticut. Derek Dennis.
The alerts across the country warn of strong winds, blizzard conditions, avalanche warnings, ice, snow, or all of the above.
Please make sure you gas up your vehicles.
That plea from California Highway Patrol Officer Michelle Michaud. The better advice? Don't drive at all if you can help it, says Sioux Falls, South Dakota Police Lieutenant Andrew Seibenborn.
Not worth the risk to yourself, and if you do get stuck, obviously someone has to come get you, and it's difficult times.
160 million Americans on alert.
Some Tennessee Titans roster moves. The Titans were tight on cash. They freed up some money today. They cut 4 players. More cuts are expected, one of which being the longest tenured player for the team, left tackle and 3-time Pro Bowler Taylor Lewan. Lewan tweeted on the move saying, quote, "I hope I did enough to create something all the Titans fans can be proud of. I love you all." Lewan was due $14.8 million this year. The other 3 players released today were wide receiver Robert Woods, kicker Randy Bullock, and linebacker Zach Cunningham. Woods tweeted one short but very telling word after the news released that said, quote, "free," with an exclamation point. That's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
It's 6 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk. Hello, everybody. I am your friend and radio buddy, Brian Wilson, and we're so glad that you've joined us for the drive on this Wednesday, Ash Wednesday, February 22nd. Glad that you are with us. We got a lot of stuff to cover. I mean, so much stuff to cover. I don't know if we'll be able to squeeze it all in this hour. You want to know? You want to know what we're doing? Let me just run through some of this. Here's some of the things we're going to be covering this hour. There was another weird death, somehow connected to Jeffrey Epstein. If you haven't heard this story, you want to hang around for it. And are there gators in the state of Tennessee? The answer may surprise you, and we'll have that story. But I think we'll start this hour with a crazy Democrat update, which we haven't done in a while.
Maybe I'm crazy.
Oh, they're certifiable, they are.
Maybe we're crazy. Probably.
All right, we start with Pete Buttigieg, who you know is he's under a lot of fire for not going to East Palestine, Ohio. You know, where's Mayor Pete? Why isn't he here? It's a transportation disaster. Why aren't you here? Last night, he's walking with a person I think is probably his husband through DuPont Circle, it looks like to me. And a reporter from the Daily Caller sees Pete Buttigieg and decides, well, I'm going to take my shot and ask some questions. And Pete Buttigieg wasn't having much. He didn't appreciate it very much. I appreciated it a great deal.
What do you have to say to the folks in Ohio, East Palestine, who are suffering right now?
Well, I'd refer you to about a dozen interviews I've given today, and if you'd like to arrange a conversation, be sure to reach out to our press office, but I can have that conversation with you. Just walk
You
down
don't
the
have a
street
message
here.
for them?
I do, and I shared it with the press many times today. I'd refer you to those comments.
Would you mind sharing it with us?
No, I'm going to refer you to the comments that I made to the press because right now I'm taking some personal time and I'm walking down the street.
Right now, he's taking some personal time. Well, I mean, that's apparently, you know, this is personal time is very important to Pete because he takes a lot of personal time. But
Are you going down there?
What's that?
Are you going down there at all?
Yeah, I am.
When are you going?
I'll share that when I'm ready.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, very breezy there in DuPont Circle. And he's about to get on the metro. Mayor Pete takes the metro. Well, then he said, "Can I take a picture of you?" To the reporter, he said, "Can I take a picture of you?" And she goes, "Yeah, sure, no problem." The last little bit there, it's sort of creepy is what it is.
Can I get a photo of you?
Yeah.
Can I take a photo of you? Yeah. All right, and he stops and pulls out his phone and takes a picture of her. Well, he did announce that he is going to East Palestine tomorrow. 20 days after the toxic train derailment, he will venture to East Palestine. And, I have a feeling he's going to be greeted by people who are less than pleased that he's there. I think they're going to have a few words for him. I mean, they were shouting the other day at a town hall meeting, "Where's Mayor Pete? Where's Mayor Pete?" And the mayor of the town, a guy by the name of Trent Conaway, said, "I don't know. I just heard from the White House today, and that was about 10 or 11 days into the crisis." These people are really, as I mentioned, Donald Trump did go there today and brought them bottled water and other goods that they need, cleaning supplies, etc. It's an ugly situation, but boy, they have mishandled this, and it just baffles me in so many different ways. Why would they not want to take care of people in Ohio? I mean, if you just look at it from the sheer politics side of it, Ohio is an important state when it comes to counting electoral votes, and you want to stay in good favor with the people of Ohio. Well, they've done anything but that, but they're just so dadgummit incompetent. Mayor Pete is in, as I said yesterday, way over his head. He is not qualified for this job. His instincts are really, really bad. I think he likes being the Secretary of Transportation. He loves the title. He loves all of the accoutrements that come with being a member of the president's cabinet. But I don't think he knows squat about what to do and he's deeply in over his head. Again, chosen not because of his qualifications, but because he allowed the Biden administration to check a certain box. Next up on our crazy Democrat update, Gavin Newsom. Boy, this is a mess. California Governor Gavin Newsom projected budget deficit of $22.5 billion. That's a budget deficit of $22.5 billion with a B dollars. Was underestimated perhaps by as much as $7 billion. So it could really be somewhere around 29, nearly $30 billion in budget deficit, according to a report last week by the Nonpartisan Legislative Analyst Office. Newsom told Californians to expect a $22.5 billion deficit in the fiscal year. After a surplus of $100 billion, they went from $100 billion in surplus to being in the hole by 22.5 or now maybe as much as $30 billion. And now the LAO says the deficit may be even worse due to deteriorating revenue picture relative to, I mean, that's because everybody's leaving. People are leaving the state left and right. They're losing their tax base. They're leaving the state of California for places like Tennessee and Texas and Florida. And so, you know, they're not bringing in the tax revenue they thought they were going to be bringing in. But man, I'm telling you, they're in deep financial doo-doo in the state of California, which, I mean, I just want to say, compare and contrast. California, $30 billion in the hole. I mean, make that maybe $30 billion, somewhere around $30 billion in the hole. And compare that to Tennessee, where they do things very fiscally conservatively. They don't spend every dollar they have. They have a good, healthy rainy day fund. We are not. We have budget surpluses. We are not in the hole. And because we manage ourselves a little better, again, Democrats spend like drunken sailors, and I apologize in advance to comparing them to drunken sailors. All drunken sailors, I'm sorry. Minnesota Democrats have introduced a bill that would allow inmates to earn early release credits, an idea that the Commissioner of Corrections, Paul Schnell, called a game-changing proposition. This is a bill that's authored and being considered in Minnesota. It's called the Minnesota Rehabilitation and Reinvestment Act. Seeks to incentivize participation in rehabilitation programming by offering early release credits. That's exactly what you need. You get people in jail because they have, and make it easy for them to get out. We're struggling somewhat with that even here in the state of Tennessee. I think when you get a sentence, you need to do the time in the Gray Bar Hotel. And if we were better about keeping people behind bars, dangerous people in behind bars and off the streets, then maybe we'd see our crime rates go down in major cities around the country. No. The goal now among Democrats is we don't really want to keep people in jail. We're going to find any excuse we can to not send them there. We're going to find any excuse we can to get them out of jail early if they end up going there after all. So there you go. We're in the business of trying to transform lives, and that is fundamentally focused on the safety of our state. I don't think it is. Lori Lightfoot, the Democrat mayor of Chicago, told Southside voters she's in trouble. I don't think she's going to get reelected. She told Southside voters they should not vote for her at all if they do not vote to reelect her. Can you imagine that? Yeah, if you're not going to vote for me, then I suggest you not vote at all. What a piece of work this woman is. But now she insists she misspoke. It was just as if I just misspoke in the heat of the moment. During a campaign event over the weekend in Grand Crossing, the mayor said anyone from the South Side voting for somebody not named Lightfoot is a vote for Che Garcia or Paul Vilas, referring to her challenges. U.S. Representative Jesus Chuy Garcia, and former Chicago Public School CEO Paul Vallis are the other frontrunners in the election for Chicago mayor. If you want them controlling your fate and your destiny, then stay home. Then don't vote. That's unbelievable. If you can't vote for me, then don't vote at all. Oh, this woman, How in the world did she ever become mayor? After casting her vote Monday at Northeastern Illinois University, Lightfoot told reporters she did not mean to suggest voters should sit out the election. If I said anything other than everybody everywhere needs to vote, then I misspoke in the heat of a campaign rally. I just misspoke. But I've been very, very consistent all along saying everybody everywhere needs to step up and they need to vote just as I said today. Lightfoot's initial comments, according to Fox News, drew criticism from her mayoral opponents who accused her of damaging the Democrat process. This is disqualifying rhetoric for anyone hoping to lead Chicago that is multiracial and multi-ethnic, said Chuy Garcia. Cook County Commissioner Brandon Johnson, who's also running to become the next mayor of Chicago, said residents deserve real leadership and are ready to turn the page with the election of a new mayor. I mean, she's just the worst. I mean, did you see her out there dancing in the street? Following a weekend when more and more people have died on the street because of the gun violence there. The gun violence, everybody says, well, we need to stop the guns. No. What you need to do is make sure that people who are not supposed to have guns don't have them. And enforce the laws that you have, and you'll be just fine. Take people who have violated the law and put them behind bars. Actually try the cases. Put them before juries. Send them to the Gray Bar Hotel. That's what you need. And I can say that about just about every major city in America where Democrats are controlled, including Nashville. I mean, it really is not that much difference here. Let's take the people who are creating the problem. Let's actually try them in a court of law before a jury of their peers. And if they are convicted, send them away and make them serve the time that they have been charged to serve. No early release. None of that nonsense. Keep bad people off the street, and you'll be remarkably impressed, I think, if you see how quickly the crime problem starts to go down. Can't do away with all crime, but it can sure make it better. These Democrats, nobody needs to be held accountable for their actions. That's really what it comes down to with Democrats. Whatever you do, it's fine. It's fine. We don't think that you should be held responsible for or pay any consequence for your bad actions. This is why we have got to see a change in this country. We've got to start electing officials in this country who understand the basics of what this country is built upon. Not, that you work hard for the things that you earn. And if you go out there and work hard and put your nose to the grindstone, you will succeed. Not just be handed something, or not be held accountable for the actions that you've made, the bad decisions that you've made. Oh, well, I made bad decisions. It's okay. It's all right. We're still going to give you a great job, even if you don't have the qualifications to hold the job, because we want to check certain boxes. Lori Lightfoot is an example of what is wrong with this country. It is 20 minutes now past the hour, 4 o'clock on SuperTalk 99.7. Coming up, weird Epstein death. Have you heard this story? I'll get to it in just a moment. But right now, this commercial break. If you're not nearing retirement, you've probably been saving and investing for a very, very long time. But there's a lot more that factors into your retirement plan, right? Social Security, minimizing taxes, managing investment and healthcare, IRAs, pensions, Medicare, 401ks, they should all be factors in your retirement plan. Overlooking any of this could deliver a disastrous blow. So Beacon Capital Management offers you a free retirement plan checklist that covers things that are often overlooked by those nearing retirement. This free retirement plan checklist will give you a detailed overview of what's needed to help ensure your financial strategy is in place. Get your plan checklist by calling this number, 615-488-9303. Now, they do have a thing going on, and you still have time to sign up for it if you move quickly. If you're worried about inflation and recession affecting your retirement, join Beacon Capital Management for a free lunch seminar. This one, the one that is still going on, is tomorrow at the Parthenon Grill in Murfreesboro. You need to call ahead and reserve a spot. Here's the number, 615-488-9303. That's the Parthenon Grill in Murfreesboro tomorrow at lunch. Call or text to RSVP at 615-488-9303.
Former President Trump in East Palestine, Ohio, where the chemical spill happened with the train derailment, and some money news, taking a trip to Wall Street. All that and more coming up 4:30 right here. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you very much, Mac Morey. Mac Morey in the newsroom. We got Chris Weber in the control room pushing all the blinky buttons. Good afternoon to you, Chris. Good to have you aboard.
Oh, thank you.
And I am your friend in radio. That's right. I was just waiting. I was pausing if that'd be polite to let you respond. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy, bringing you news and information you can use so that you arrive home with so much knowledge that when you sit down at the dinner table, people will be astonished at the wisdom that you impart to them.
That's what we hope, anyway.
That's very high. That's a very high goal. That's right. Well, here we go. This story, I don't know. I don't know what to think about this. You know, so many weird stories seem to be linked to Bill Clinton and to Jeffrey Epstein. And ever since Jeffrey Epstein, died in prison, I'm not going to say he committed suicide because I think there are a lot of questions about that one, and I think you do too. But there are weird little things that seem to be loosely connected to the names Epstein and Clinton, right? Okay. Well, this all has to do with the thing that happened a while back in 2022, May 7th of 2022, to a guy named Mark Middleton, age 59, in Perryville, Arkansas. Let me give you the background. They arrive on the scene, and they find a guy who appears to be shot and hanged. All right, let me just read this story. This is the post-millennials version of the story, drawing from both a couple of other reports have dug up and have seen the actual report from the sheriff's office on this incident. The sheriff's report on the disturbing scene where a top Bill Clinton advisor with ties to Jeffrey Epstein was found shot and hanged from a tree has finally been released, prompting many to ask why the death was ruled a suicide. Mark Middleton, age 59, was a special advisor to the former president in the 1990s, authorizing Epstein's visit to the White House 7 out of the 17 times the infamous pedophile met with top government officials there. Additionally, he was on the flight logs of Epstein's private jet. According to the Perry County Sheriff's Office, Middleton was found dead on May 7th of 2022 with a gunshot wound to his chest and an extension cord tying his neck to a tree in Perryville, Arkansas. As obtained by the Daily Mail, Sheriff Deputy Jeremy Lawson's first-hand report on the mysterious death claims, quote, "I could see that what at first appeared to be a man sitting near a tree. As my eyes focused better, I could see a rope of some type going from a tree limb to the male. Middleton's body was found at the Heifer Ranch after worker Samantha McElroy called police after finding Middleton's abandoned black BMW SUV at the property. I could see, this is bizarre. I could see he had a gunshot wound to his chest, and they had a knot tied to an extension cord that was around his neck and was attached to the limb directly above him. Ammunition and gun case were found in Middleton's vehicle, but the weapon itself never turned up. Despite the confusing details of the case, Sheriff Scott Montgomery said Middleton had apparently shot himself in the chest with a shotgun and also somehow hung himself, according to the Arkansas Times. According to the outlet, the late presidential advisor family said was being treated for depression for his death. The court finds that since Mr. Middleton's death, the Middletons apparently have been harassed by individuals who are investigating the matter. Middleton left the White House in February of 95. I seem to remember this. The following year, a White House investigation determined that he had abused his access to impress business clients, maybe Epstein, leading him to be barred from the executive mansion without senior approval. He has denied those accusations. Is that a weird one or what? Many people are asking the question, how can you have a gunshot wound and also be hanged? How can you have a gunshot wound, I guess a shotgun wound to the chest, and also apparently have hanged yourself? How can you do both those things? I don't understand any way that's even possible. And where is the weapon? I mean, is that not like a basic question that should be explored before you decide that it's a suicide? And if there was a weapon there, you could say, well, maybe, but if there's no weapon that can be found, you have to wonder, what is going on with this? Again, as you dig into it, more weirdness surrounding people who are linked to both Epstein and Clinton. I leave it. By the way, you can find the link to this at yourfarb.com, URFARB.com, if you want to read the story on your own and see what you think about it. You can find the link to Your Farb at 997WTN.com. 4:30 now on SuperTalk 99.7.
Minutes after the hour of 4 o'clock, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Right now, 79 degrees in Nashville and a windy day. If you haven't yet noticed, gusts up to 45 miles an hour throughout all of Middle Tennessee. A wind advisory in effect until midnight tonight. Weather traffic coming up just a few minutes away. Former President Trump visited the Ohio train chemical spill site today to suggest the current president is neglecting the people who live there. Andy Field.
Former President Trump getting a campaign-style welcome to East Palestine, Ohio, then blaming the Biden administration for not helping Ohio recover, and then bringing some of his own aid.
We're bringing thousands of bottles of water, Trump water, actually, most of it.
The former president also criticizing President Biden for attending the NATO summit instead of coming to Ohio.
Trump also claimed that the FEMA aid was triggered by his decision to visit the site. And over to the Money News, Daria Albinger.
Stocks closed mixed today after falling to their worst losses so far this year. The Dow fell 85 points, the S&P gave up 6, but the Nasdaq rose 15. After a better-than-expected January, stocks hit a wall this month on worries that inflation is not slowing as quickly or as smoothly as the Federal Reserve had hoped. The minutes from the Fed's latest meeting showed policymakers still think inflation's too high, and that's why the central bank says more rate hikes are coming as it tries to bring inflation down to the 2% target rate. Remember, while higher interest rates can help drive down inflation, there's always a possibility that the increases could trigger a recession. Amazon has closed the nearly $4 billion deal to buy the primary care organization One Medical. The health company runs a membership-based service that offers virtual care as well as in-person visits.
And that is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Let's talk about the Wellness Institute of Nashville. Here's the number, 615-246-5009. As always, you can learn more by going to their website, painisbad.com. You have a few more days to take advantage of this because they have, in the month of February, a special going on, half price for all non-surgical spinal decompression treatments. That's half price. That's right. No excuses to get started with a break for your 2023 health goals to get rid of back pain at one half the cost. No surgeries, no injections, no addictive painkillers. And then the other thing is your first consult is only $23. When you go there, $23 for new patients. That's an exam, consultation, x-rays, and if included if needed. Or you can bring in an MRI report if you have one and go over it with Dr. Kevin Mitchell. Now, Kevin Mitchell is my doctor. He'll be your doctor. You'll see him each and every time you go to the Wellness Institute of Nashville. I'm due to go back there again tomorrow. I go twice a week for these kinds of treatments. I'm telling you, non-surgical spinal decompression has helped me, and I think it can help you. Why don't you go see the doc to find out? 615-246-5009. Learn more at painisbad.com.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. I've been teaching investing on Nashville airwaves for over 20 years with the Investor Coaching Show. And in that time, I taught a lot about how markets work and how we invest money and academic principles of investing money. But I've also talked an awful lot about how to avoid the mistakes that people often make with their money. Think about it. A lot of people sold out of the market at the worst time when COVID struck, or when TARP happened, the Troubled Asset Relief Program, or gold, they invested in that at the worst time. bailing out of the market because they were worried about Y2K or 9/11 or jumping into energy stocks or jumping into cryptocurrency. One of the things that I like to do is educate investors because I believe that the more educated you are, the more confident you are, and the more confident you are, the more successful you can be as an investor. Now, I not only do that on our radio show, but we do that in our offices around the Nashville region, 10 offices. To learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call. Or you can call 615-851-1950.
It's 38 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on SuperTalk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy, and you're listening to The Drive. It's my favorite part of the week. We get to be joined by Pete Hegseth. Yes, he's the host of Fox & Friends Weekend Edition. He's also a resident right here in Middle Tennessee, a relatively new resident to Sumner County. Pete, good to have you on the show again. We missed
Brian,
you
thanks for
last
having
week.
me. Yeah, sorry to miss it.
Well, you sound like you're really revved up and ready to go today.
Oh, man, I'm running all over the place. What day of the week is it? I just know we're talking. I'm glad.
It's Wednesday, and it's about 4:38, so let's get started.
That's what I needed.
Yeah, okay. Now that you're centered, let's start talking about what's going on in the world around us. The president makes a trip to Ukraine and then goes to Poland. My calculation on this is it's a stunt because he wants to look presidential on the world stage. Not really necessary to go. No reason to go there. And again, we renew our debate on whether or not we should be spending $100 billion in Ukraine.
Well, exactly right. That is the debate that ought to be renewed, considering, first of all, we know where his priorities are. They're not in Ohio. They're not in the southern border. Right. They're in creating the trappings of a presidential moment on a war footing, in a war we don't have troops currently in, but is a proxy war that is growing. It's no mistake that the foreign minister of China visited Russia around the same time. It's no mistake that Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping said they would be meeting around the same time Joe Biden's giving this speech. He's speaking openly about effectively an endless war, as if the brink of America's security is tied to it. And I can't help but think, they want to compare it to World War II. If the tanks roll into Ukraine, they're going to roll across Europe. That's the wrong analogy. And people may have thought that at the beginning of the war. It's clear that's not the case right now. The better analogy is World War I, where a coalition of alliances and miscalculations or events or escalations lead to a wider war that we should have had nothing to do with to begin with, that was bigger than it ever had to be. And that's what Joe Biden, it feels like he is stumbling us into. Yet, if you're his advisors, they're saying, well, lean into Ukraine to look strong in a big speech, as opposed to meeting with your own citizens who had a train derailment, who don't know whether they can breathe the air or drink the water. So a lot of it has to do with politics and the way Washington works.
I heard your analogy comparing it to World War I, not World War II. I thought that was brilliant, and I hadn't thought of it in those terms. But that really is the better analogy, isn't it?
It really is. I mean, look at it. Do I want my boys fighting in eastern Ukraine over the Donbass in the future because we kept escalating. First it was small arms, then it was long-range missiles, then it was tanks, then it was F-16s. Now it's troops on the Polish border. Now we send some advisors in, right? It always starts with advisors. We send them advanced weaponry. Well, we're going to have to send advisors to teach them how to use it. And meanwhile, Putin's back is against the wall. He really just wanted Ukraine or portions of it, which is terrible in and of itself. So he turns to Iran to make his guided drones, and then he turns to China to buy his oil and gas, and then to provide their own weapons. And pretty soon, this is not Afghanistan where it's a proxy. This is the edge of Europe, all-out battle, potentially with our own troops involved. Tell me where that ends. And as a veteran of the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan that went on for 20 years, I need an end state. And the end state of we win at any cost is not useful to the American people. And I hear people still peddling that. I don't know what they're peddling or what. I want to know how this thing ramps down because we've got bigger problems, like the communist Chinese who have global ambitions and we're asleep at the wheel. So I see us stumbling into something we're not ready for.
Yeah, and yet this is something that even Republicans are divided on. I mean, I bring your attention to a story that I found on Breitbart today. House Foreign Affairs Committee Chair Representative Michael McCall led several Republican lawmakers on a trip to Ukraine where they expressed their support to President Volodymyr Zelensky and conducted oversight of military equipment. I mean, they're obviously, when these massive amounts of money go over to Ukraine, many Republicans are voting for it.
They are, because the Republican Party became the home of the neoconservatives, and I'm a recovering neocon who was mugged by reality of what military intervention can truly do and the unintended consequences of it. It's easy to say win, win, win. I've yelled that mantra before on Iraq and Afghanistan, and I understand why I did, and I don't feel like I was completely wrong at that moment, but there's a moment when you step back and say, that's not the answer. And suddenly now you've got the anti-war left deciding that this is something to completely go to war over. In some sense, Brian, it feels like, and I may have mentioned this to you before, it feels like fighting Vladimir Putin is an extension of their proxy war against Trump. It's like their ability to keep fighting Trump because they created this boogeyman that the two are one and the same. And by fighting the most evil man in the world, Vladimir Putin, according to them, they're also, kind of thumbing their nose at Trump and the Republicans who didn't take Russia seriously. So none of it feels like it's being done for the right reason.
Trump was in East Palestine, Ohio today, making his appearance known, bringing water and supplies. Pete Buttigieg, on day 20, 20 days since that train derailment took place, apparently will go visit there tomorrow. I don't understand why the Biden administration has been reluctant to get involved in this and cover this. I think it misses sheer incompetence because if you look at the electoral college politics of it all, you would want to be in good favor with the people in Ohio, it would seem to me.
You would think. It is, in some level, sheer incompetence in that you've got a transportation secretary who couldn't manage South Bend. What's he going to do in a train derailment? And again, these are very political people who see know a loss when they see one. It's kind of the same well, actually, it's a win on the border for them because they want the borders open. But why would they go down there and acknowledge it? It's just like, why would they go acknowledge this with a bunch of white Trump supporters when they're working to, diversify construction sites and add diversity, equity, inclusion into everything else? It doesn't fit into a narrative for them. They're all about narratives. And so what happens to the people in the process is just a byproduct of that. So Green New Deal initiatives and passing multi-billion-dollar bills are more important than actually helping people and addressing an environmental catastrophe. And then Joe Biden, maybe nobody's told him about it. I don't know. He does what his advisors tell him, and showing up there, he's supposed to be the empathy president, though. Remember that? He was supposed to be the guy that feels your pain. He couldn't do that.
Well, we've got a lot of talk starting to burble up about 2024. Clearly Trump going to Ohio today, that was like a part of his campaign and letting people know, I care about you. They dropped the ball, but if I'm elected, I would not drop the ball. I'll be there for you. That's good. You got Nikki Haley, who says that she wants to run. Vivek Ramaswamy was in, and I really love his message, but I don't see any real hope for him as a candidate. I just don't, it looks like it's going to be either Trump or DeSantis on the Republican side of the equation, don't you think?
I think you're right. Either everyone else is running for vanity, another position, because they think it's their time, or they're hoping that Trump and DeSantis destroy each other so much that a third candidate sort of emerges as some sort of a consensus candidate. I love Vivek. He's an awesome guy. I'm glad he's thrown his hat in the ring. He may shake it up a little bit with some of his corporate experience. It still is totally Trump and DeSantis, and you can tell that Trump is trying to box DeSantis out with his preemptive strikes. That'll be the battle. That's the battle, and I think they're both sing the same tune. The question is, what are people looking for?
A couple of stories that just popped up today, and they all seem to be coming from some. I mean, when you see 2 or 3 stories with the same kind of headline about what's going on in Washington, somebody is whispering to reporters. It doesn't happen out of thin air, and the story seems to be maybe, just maybe, Biden is not going to run for re-election. What's your sense?
Interesting. I hadn't seen those stories. I've been out, as I like to say, working the land for most of the day today.
Oh, really?
Every once in a while you got to take a little break. But that would not surprise me. When you see, you're right by that. When you see 2 or 3 well placed that he may not do it, that's the beginning of a drumbeat. And listen, a confident president would have come out of the State of the Union and said, I'm running, I'm going to run, and here's my announcement. The longer you wait, the more it adds uncertainty. What are they waiting for, though, is the question. Like, who else fills the void is what confuses all of us.
We haven't talked since we started to learn more about what those things were that they shot down. We know that there was a Chinese balloon, and that's very separate. But the other 3, it seemed to be maybe even one of them may have been a recreational balloon worth about $12 that we spent $400,000 to shoot down. Honestly, there's so many questions about that. What were you doing shooting at something if you didn't know what it was? Is the first one.
Well, that's the first one. I've never shot at anything in my life in the military. They didn't know what it was. It's like the guy who's on the playground and could have fought the bully but didn't back down from the bully, and then went and found 3 wimpy kids to beat up to feel better about it, and then tell everybody that he won 3 fights, but don't pay attention to that first one. Yeah, we shot down like trinkety little $12 balloons, or another one. Was apparently a government-funded research project, and so they're out there trying to show that they look tough. How much do they know about those things? I don't know, but if you're the Chinese, you go, yep, these guys really don't get it. I mean, they're really now we got them firing at random stuff, and their own skies were in their head as they continue with their long-range fun. As our kids stare at their phones and download TikTok and all the other aspects in which they're at war with us, they see how unserious our leaders are.
I'll let you get back to the vast Hegseth Empire out there in Sumner County, working the North 40 there. But we really always appreciate you dropping by, Pete.
Thank you, Brian. It's my pleasure. Thank you.
All right. It is now 49 minutes past the hour of 4 o'clock. In just a moment, are there gators in Tennessee?
Former President Donald Trump in Palestine, Ohio, where the toxic train derailment occurred a few weeks ago, and a car chase in Tennessee. It ends in Montgomery County. That and more at 5 o'clock. Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
All right. You don't think of Tennessee as being the home to alligators, but apparently we need to rethink that. According to the folks at the Tennessee Wildlife Resource Agency, some of their own personnel have witnessed gators in Tennessee. One was spotted just outside Memphis in Fayette County, and apparently they've also been spotted. That's right. Whew. That sounds scary. On the Tennessee River in Hardin County, on the Mississippi River in Shelby County. They've been in Mississippi for a while, and they apparently are moving north.
That's lovely.
The gators are coming.
It's just what we need is gators.
Oh, yeah.
As if my wife had didn't have enough things to worry about in the, outdoors.
That's right. The U.S. Geological Survey shows that gators in Tennessee are not out of the question. But none of them have been spotted in the Nashville area as yet.
Yeah, it's only a matter of time.
It's only a matter of time. That's right.
And these things are just frightening.
Apparently they do exist in the state of Tennessee, though you don't think about it. It seems like it's awful far north.
Yeah, but I guess, that global warming Al Gore warned us about.
That's right.
They're migrating north.
Okay. So, yeah. I can't imagine, when I lived in Florida, there was a great incident that occurred on the beach not far from my place, where a gator came out of a pond and into the beach. They have all these ponds that sort of flow out to the beaches.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And the gators will sometimes switch ponds. And the way they do it is they go out to the beach and they just walk up the beach. You should have seen all the tourists scattering when this 12-foot-long gator just comes marching down the beach.
Ugh.
I mean, that was really something. 58 minutes now past the hour of 4 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. All right, Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy here, talking about my friends at McGill's Glock store. I want to remind you of a story I told on the air, actually. With Cabana wife and I went down to the Glock store. I thought I was going to be the top dog, and when it came to putting rounds down range, but she turned out to be the much better shot. Something she reminds me of, quite honestly, very often. But it was a lot of fun. Had a great deal of fun training with her. And if you and your significant other want to enjoy a couples training session, February is your month to visit the world-famous Glock store. During all of February, your significant other trains with you for free with your paid range session. And that's not all. If your significant other is thinking about a handgun of their own, all couple sessions come with free handgun rentals to help them choose the perfect weapon. That's right. During your sessions, you can try out as many as you like, with optics, without. It's really a good deal. To book your February couple session, and TikTok, it's the 22nd, folks, simply go to shoot270.com. That's shoot270.com and click on Book a Shooting Session. Or call the Glock store at 615-682-6565. That's 615-682-6565. Only at McGill's world-famous Glock store, minutes from the airport. Worth the drive from anywhere.
Five o'clock, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Right now, it is 74 degrees in Nashville. Weather and traffic coming up in just a few minutes. A visit to the area of the toxic train derailment in Ohio by former President Trump today. Derek Dennis.
Handing out Make America Great Again hats.
This is for you.
And announcing tractor trailers full of donated bottled water.
I think you're going to have plenty of water for a long time, maybe.
Former president and presidential candidate again, Donald Trump, visiting near the site of the toxic train derailment, supporting area residents.
What this community needs now are not excuses.
Trump adding Norfolk Southern Railway needs to fulfill its responsibilities and obligations in the cleanup and recovery. The town's mayor, Trent Conaway, telling Trump, don't stay too long.
We appreciate you being here, but at some point we'd ask you to leave.
The former president claimed that the FEMA aid was also triggered by his decision to visit the site. Crime in Tennessee, Channel 4 reports that a vehicle pursuit started in Stewart County and concluded in Montgomery County this morning. The male driver ended the chase on South Liberty Church Road and then fled on foot. A woman was in the car as well and was detained. Officials are still looking for the male suspect, who's described as a black male with shoulder-length dreadlocks and was last seen wearing a black hoodie. Police found methamphetamines and marijuana inside of the car, and law enforcement has been monitoring and searching that area throughout all of today. And some tax breaks for mothers and families are in two bills filed in the legislature.
Gallatin Republican State Senator Pharrell Hale and Goodlettsville Republican State Rep Johnny Garrett are sponsors of legislation to forever make baby diapers, infant formula, and baby wipes tax-exempt in Tennessee. For now, the prospect of passing does not look good in the Senate. News 2 says the Senate version of the bill failed to receive a positive recommendation in the Finance, Ways, and Means Revenue Subcommittee. The price tag seems to be the issue. Ken Weaver, WTN News.
And looking at weather, we know here it's around 78 degrees, a little windier than usual for February. But what about weather around the nation? Lots of winter storms. Some are impacting flights. Minneapolis and Denver are feeling it, and the threat is there for other places too. Alex Stone reports from L.A. where it could snow later this week.
From California to Connecticut, 43 states are under weather warnings today. In South Dakota, state offices are closed and employees working remotely. Lieutenant Andrew Siebenborn with Sioux Falls Police says more than a foot of snow is expected.
We really aren't even into the bad part of the storm that's coming up, and we expect it to get a lot worse.
And then here in Los Angeles County, blizzard warnings are up for expected rare snow on Thursday night. There hasn't been a blizzard warning in Southern California in over 20 years.
And that is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Well, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. It's 6 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock. Hour number 3 now beginning of the drive for this Ash Wednesday, February 22nd. Thank you so much for being a part of what we do here on Super Talk. You can listen to us on the radio, on our WTN app, or you can watch us on SuperTalk TV live by going to our Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch accounts. I got to figure out what that Twitch thing is. Find today's show prep by going to yourfarb.com and find the link to Your Farb at 997WTN.com. I think we're going to have a lot of people looking at Your Farb today because there's a couple of really interesting stories. One of them, if you want to see, the President of the United States fall up the stairs of Air Force One again, I've got a clip on there. It's on Your Farb. It'll take you right to it. And then there's this Jeffrey Epstein story that's just so bizarre. We talked about it last hour, and it's available there too. Again, Your Farb, URFARB.com. I think you'll find some interesting stuff there. I want to talk 2024 if I could. Let's start with Donald Trump, who was in Ohio today. Trump on the stump, he was, and he went to visit the people at East Palestine, Ohio, bringing them a bunch of Trump water. He says, look, we got water for you because we care about you, even if the federal government does not. FEMA has said you don't qualify for special, money, which it just baffles me beyond belief. These people have been uprooted from their homes. If it had been a tornado, it couldn't be any worse. They simply cannot go back to their homes through no fault of their own. It is a man-made disaster, but a disaster nonetheless. And apparently the people in the Biden administration have made the ruling you don't qualify for any kind of special help. Trump went there to say, I won't treat you that way. I won't forget you.
We have told you loud and clear, you are not forgotten. You are not forgotten. We stand with you, we pray for you, and we will stay with you in your fight to help answer, and the accountability that you deserve. We'll have that accountability. It'll all be out there very clearly.
All right. So, by the way, Mayor Pete goes there tomorrow, 20 days after the derailment, being basically bullied into going because I don't think he would have gone even such if it hadn't been for the fact that people were on him all over the place. I mean, he even got accosted in what looked like to me to be DuPont Circle in Washington, D.C., going to dinner. Well, he's having personal time, but apparently he will be going tomorrow. It'll be interesting to see what he has to say. A day late and $1 short. That's Mayor Pete for you. Getting back to the 2024 campaign, we talked about Trump. What about Joe Biden? I mean, the expectation has been that Joe Biden will be running for re-election. That he's gonna sign up again. They're gonna go at it again. I mean, I honestly look at it and I say, I don't know what in the world Democrats are thinking. I mean, it's if they want to do that, that's all good and fine. I don't think that the man will find favor with people who look at him how he dodders around. Although, no indication that he's going to actually get out and campaign. There's a story here. Biden will probably just, do it from the Wilmington basement. This from theredstate.com. While it's hard to figure out what goes on in Joe Biden's vacuous mind, one thing seems clear. The 46th president of the United States delusionally believes he's doing a bang-up job for the American people. And given that irrational reality, Joe likely thinks if it ain't broke, don't fix it regarding the 2024 election. The expectation is, according to the New York Times, Biden is reportedly pushing to locate his 2024 campaign headquarters at his home in Wilmington, Delaware. You know, the same place where classified documents were found stashed away in November, right next to his... I won't bother you with all that. And really, that would not be surprising. That would not be shocking. Because that's what they did the last time, and they got away with it. He's not going to get out there and campaign. He's not going to get out there and actually rub elbows with the population. He'll show up where he has to. He'll make a few ventures out, but he's going to run the whole dadgum campaign if he runs from the basement in Wilmington, Delaware. And I say if he runs because there are a couple of stories out there, and when I see a couple of stories that have the same headline, I kind of come to this conclusion. Somebody is out there whispering this quietly to a reporter, and reporters are writing about it. So is this something real, or is it just somebody saying we need to be prepared if? Biden backup plan. Democrats privately planning life after Joe if he decides not to run. For months, this from the Washington Examiner. Many political insiders have been operating under the assumption that Joe Biden will run. Now some of his allies are reportedly planning for the seemingly implausible possibility that he drops out. He's made the moves to lay the groundwork for a campaign debut, such as recent campaign-style stops in Florida and Wisconsin. But he scarcely talks about his 2024 plans with confidence, keeping his focus trained more on day-to-day duties of the presidency, according to sources speaking to Politico. It's not that he won't run, said one Biden confidant to the news outlet. The assumption is that he will, but nothing is decided, and it won't be decided until it is. So now Democrats very quietly thinking, okay, if for some reason he decides he's not going to run, what's our plan B? Who could we turn to? I mean, it ain't Kamala. That would be a disaster. I mean, she'll run, but I mean, I don't think she's thought of highly by Democrats at this point. I mean, she's even less popular than Biden is, if you look at the polls. Here's the aforementioned story in Politico. Biden may not run, and top Democrats are quietly preparing. The president no longer seems absolutely certain to go for a second term, leaving the party, his top aides, and potential candidates unsure about 2024 and very quietly mulling a plan B. And then they go through and they list a bunch of the potential plan B candidates. Klobuchar is mentioned. Elizabeth Warren mentioned. Sanders. I don't get that one at all. I honestly, trust me, I do not get it. Exchange one old fart for another. But there's some talk that he would be ready to go if indeed Biden doesn't. I mean, everybody says the same thing. If Biden's running, I'm not running. If Biden decides not to run, then I might be ready to go. What's driving the talk isn't Biden and his age, the donor added, but the possibility that Trump could return. Most donors view the alternative as an existential threat to the country. That's the way Democrats look at Trump. So some of this is impolite, maybe, but no one seems to be taking issue with it. As White House officials, advisors, and operatives await word from Biden for 2024, many have received little clarity about where they might fit into the eventual campaign. So what you're hearing here is a little nail-biting, a little bit of worry from the people over in Biden world that Biden, it doesn't seem to be all that excited about the possibility of running for re-election. He's not talking about it very much. They're making plans for a basement campaign if he does decide. But you're beginning to get the sense, if you listen carefully, that some Democrats have come to the conclusion that he's going to pull up short and decide not to run, which would change things dramatically. It'd be very interesting to see how that may play out. We're going to watch this. All I'm telling you is my experience in Washington tells me this story is not coming from thin air. This is coming from somebody who understands the behind the scenes in a pretty high level area of the Democrat Party. So that'll be fun to watch. Let's see what happens there. Joe Manchin, speaking of Democrats, Joe Manchin has said that he won't run for president in 2024. There's one story that said he won't run. There's another story that says he won't run today. He did a couple of interviews in West Virginia. Let me see if I can find this other story. Yeah, here it is. I love this because he always does this talk show in West Virginia and almost always makes news. Joe Manchin said on Wednesday he's not running for president today as speculation swirls about his 2024 plans. according to the Washington Examiner. Manchin, who has not yet revealed whether he will run for re-election to the Senate, told West Virginia talk radio host Hoppy Kercheval, I wish I had a cool name like that his White House aspirations could change down the line 2 years from now, a year and a half from now. I don't know who the Democrat or Republican nominee are going to be. My goal is to bring the country together, which I think is Joe Manchin's way of saying, I might enter, but if I do, I'll do it as a third-party candidate, as an independent. In another interview, he said, I'm not running for president of the United States. He said it just flatly to a group called as Metro News. So that was from a radio interview broadcast from the state capitol in Charleston. Interesting. Nikki Haley, former South Carolina governor, Nikki Haley's 2024 support doubled. Of course, she started pretty low, so doubling is not a big deal, but she's up after her announcement. Some 6% of Republican voters back Haley, up from 3% the same pollster pegged a week prior. But she's way behind Donald Trump and way behind Ron DeSantis in most of the polls that are out there. However, this is an interesting little point. Listen to this. Her popularity, her favorability rating has gone up dramatically. Before she launched her campaign, when people asked, do you have a favorable opinion of Nikki Haley, she stood at 17%. After her campaign announcement, when she was on the TV and making the rounds and making all her statements and sending stuff out on social media, her popularity, her favorability rating now stands at 62%. That's pretty good. That means she is looked at favorably by Republicans, even if they're not enamored with the idea of her being the standard bearer for the GOP. So I don't think that she will probably gain enough momentum to be a threat to Donald Trump or Ron DeSantis. But when you're there and you got a 62% favorability rating and you come from South Carolina, a key player in the whole primary process, I don't know. She might be an attractive vice presidential candidate. And then there's this. Vivek Ramaswamy has decided that he's going to run. And this guy is an entrepreneur. And if you haven't heard him speak, I'm going to play a little bit of it here in just a bit so you can get a sense of it. Now, is this guy somebody who could become the next president? Highly unlikely. But boy, does he have a message that I hope that the Republican Party pays attention to and picks up for this upcoming election. I'll get to that in just a moment. Right now, 20 minutes past the hour of 5 o'clock on SuperTalk. You know, finding value is important all the time, but especially these days. That's why I'm so confident recommending Genesis Diamonds. Value is the core principle that Genesis was founded upon. The owner is a former diamond wholesaler who used to sell diamonds to upscale jewelry stores, but he hated how much they marked up their prices when they sold them to the customers. So he cut them out, started selling direct to the public at fair and honest prices that eliminated the traditionally fat retail profit margins. That direct importer advantage still applies at Genesis Diamonds. That's why they beat everyone else's prices on GIA-certified diamonds. At Genesis, you get a higher quality diamond with the best cut for maximum brilliance, no commission salespeople, a personal relaxed shopping experience, free service for life on any purchase, and you get the best rings that money can buy from the very top designers in America, handcrafted American-made rings from names like Tacori, Verragio, many, many more. Best selection, highest quality, guaranteed best value, a locally owned company with an amazing international connections. Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills, and Cool Springs.
Former President Trump in East Palestine, Ohio today. And could TikTok be banned on universities in Tennessee? That and more, 5:30 SuperTalk 99.7 WTN.
And coming up right after the news here in the second half hour of this hour, boy, I'm telling you, bring the music down because we are about to explore whether or not the truth is out there. I've got a great story about UFOs coming up in the second half of this hour, which you don't want to miss. So make sure you hang around for that, all right? Okay. We'll get to that in a minute. In the meantime, we're talking about 2024, and there's this guy named Vivek Ramaswamy. His parents are from India. He went to Harvard and Yale. He's a biotech entrepreneur, and he's running for the presidency as a Republican, saying that what we need to do is we need to find a national identity again. And I don't know if this guy's got a chance in hell, but I got to tell you, listening to him last night as he made his announcement on Tucker, I have to say, I thought, man, I love what he's saying. I hope people are taking notes because whether or not he has gets any traction is a hard question to know. I think he's got a heavy lift here. But I like what he's saying. See what you think.
We are in the middle of this national identity crisis where we have celebrated our diversity and our differences for so long that we forgot all of the ways we're really just the same as Americans, bound by a common set of ideals that set this nation into motion 250 years ago. And that's why I'm proud to say tonight that I am running for United States president to revive those ideals in this country, those basic rules of the road. Meritocracy, the idea that you get ahead in this country, not on the color of your skin, but on the content of your character. The idea that you are allowed to speak freely, yes, to be wrong sometimes, as long as your neighbor gets the same courtesy in return. The idea that the people who we elect to run the government, by the way, are the people who actually run the government. And the reason that I'm running for president is to revive those ideals. And I believe deep in my bones they still exist, that most Americans still believe in them, but we need to rediscover that. And the only way we can do it is by start talking openly again. I think we need to put merit back into America in every sphere of our lives. I mean, merit in who gets into this country. Let's start with that, okay? I think more people like my parents can be a good thing for this country. But people whose first act of entering this country as a law-breaking one, we should say a hard no to that. Not just who gets in, but also who gets ahead. Decimating affirmative action. It has been a national cancer. One of my top priorities will be to end affirmative action in every sphere of American life. Lyndon Johnson issued an executive order that requires anyone who does business with the U.S. government to adopt race-based quota systems. Any Republican president since Lyndon Johnson could have taken a pen and crossed that out. We haven't done it yet. I think that's the kind of courage we're going to need to muster to go after these sacred cows, from woke religion in the form of affirmative action to this new climate religion, which is completely shackling the American economy and culture. We need to take the most sacred cows of these alternative secular religions, and I'm sorry to say this, take them to the slaughterhouse, because that's what it's going to take for this national revival where we stop apologizing for what it means to be American.
You know what? I agreed with just about everything he said. I mean, I love his message. Again, you know, it takes more than just a good message to become a president. You got to have a good campaign organization. You got to find support. But I hope we get voices like that on the stage during the debate. I mean, look, right now, if you're a betting man, you'd have to say it's going to be Trump or it's going to be DeSantis. Pretty clear right now the way things look that would be the way to go. If you had to make a guess, that's what you would say. But I like having these voices on the stage that can generate, you know, new ideas and perhaps generate a little excitement. I don't know much about Vivek Ramaswamy except what I've learned by watching him last night. But I got to tell you, it was I just stood in awe. I said, man, this guy, I agree with everything he says. I'm not endorsing him. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he's the guy I would support because I don't know that I'm going to do that this time around. I might, but I don't think I'm going to. I generally don't. I stay out of those things. But I just felt like, well, that's a fresh and exciting sort of message, and he delivers it brilliantly. You know, I guess that helps that he went to Harvard and Yale, so probably figured it out a thing or two. But anyway, that's interesting. And Tucker Carlson, you know, he made his big announcement there. Will it catch fire? I don't know. It's a very heavy lift when you're a virtual unknown. Politics, so much of politics is about name ID, and he doesn't have much name ID. But I have found one thing very interesting, both in broadcasting and in politics. When there's somebody out there who has a really unusual name, it sticks. I remember, I kept thinking, there's this guy on CNN that I used to watch all the time back in the day when CNN actually covered news in a somewhat responsible way. And his name, you'll remember it, Wolf Blitzer. I think the reason Wolf Blitzer succeeded as a broadcaster is because of, well, he had some reporting ability, but he also had an unusual name that stuck with you, right? I used to work with a co-anchor in D.C. years ago whose name was Lark McCarthy. And what a lovely person she was, and a great journalist. But her name was unusual, and it stuck with people. And I always noticed people with unusual names. I wonder if a name like Vivek Ramaswamy will stick with people because it's very unusual. At least it stuck. It's going to stick with me because I'm going to be watching to see what else this guy does. 30 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on SuperTalk 99.7.
5:30, I'm Mac Maury with your top stories. Right now, 78 degrees in Nashville. Been a warmer week, but been a windier day as well. Wind advisory in effect until midnight tonight, and you'll see more regular February temperatures come back here later on this week. Weather and traffic coming up just a few minutes away, starting with former President Trump, who was in East Palestine, Ohio today, telling residents there have been affected by the toxic train wreck that they are, quote, not forgotten. Trump also saying he brought some bottled water with him.
And I'm pleased to announce that we've helped coordinate the delivery of the water and bottled water as well as the tractor trailers full of it. We have big tractor trailers full of water. I think you're going to have plenty of water for a long time, maybe.
The former president also claimed that the FEMA aid was triggered by his decision to visit the site. Over to some possible legislation that could be coming in Tennessee. A Republican Senator, John Lundberg, is trying to pass a law that would ban TikTok from Tennessee state colleges and universities. It would prohibit TikTok or any other video company not based in the United States being used on college Wi-Fi. The law is being discussed today at a Senate committee meeting. And the world's largest electric car company has a new California home. Mike Dobuski has more.
Tesla chief executive Elon Musk announcing his company's new global engineering headquarters in the former Hewlett-Packard building in Palo Alto.
This is, I think, a poetic transition from the company that founded Silicon Valley to Tesla.
The company's main headquarters remain in Austin, Texas. It moved out of California in 2021 after Musk took issue with the state's COVID-19 policies. Still, Tesla operates its Fremont factory there, and according to Governor Gavin Newsom's office, the state has invested more than $3 billion in the company since 2009.
And if there was a ribbon to cut, we'd cut it.
And that is the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Maury, WTN News.
Let's talk about busybhvac.com. They're the people that you want for your heating, your air conditioning, your plumbing systems. And right now with your heating and your air conditioning, it's the time of year, and we're going to be 80 degrees tomorrow. That's unbelievable. So right now I got the air conditioner going. But early in the morning, you may need the heat. You need both of them working. So during this season, if you see that one side or the other of your HVA system is not working, well, that would be a good time to call the folks at Busy Bee, have them come over and go through your system. You might want to become a member of the Beehive Club. Little as $99, you get 3 thorough maintenance services on your systems. One aimed at the heating system, one aimed at the cooling system, one aimed at your plumbing. No overtime charges, 24/7, 10% off all repairs. Convenient Saturday availability for those maintenance calls. You'll never be left out in the cold or the heat or whatever it is you've got going. Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, your official Rude Pro partner. For satisfaction guaranteed, call Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling, 775-7833. That's 615-775-7833. Online at busybhvac.com.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. I've been teaching investing on Nashville airwaves for over 20 years with the Investor Coaching Show. And in that time, I taught a lot about how markets work and how we invest money and academic principles of investing money. But I've also talked an awful lot about how to avoid the mistakes that people often make with their money. Think about it. A lot of people sold out of the market at the worst time when COVID struck, or when TARP happened, the Troubled Asset Relief Program, or gold, they invested in that at the worst time. Bailing out of the market because they were worried about Y2K or 9/11 or jumping into energy stocks or jumping into cryptocurrency. One of the things that I like to do is educate investors, because I believe that the more educated you are, the more confident you are, and the more confident you are, the more successful you can be as an investor. Now, I not only do that on our radio show, but we do that in our offices around the Nashville region, 10 offices. To learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call. Or you can call 615-851-1950.
.38 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on SuperTalk 99.7. I'm Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy, and this is The Drive, Ash Wednesday, February 22nd. Glad you're with us. Let's get you home safely. Every once in a while, we like to stop, sort of the stuff that we do, the politics and the opinion stuff, and just talk about things that sort of, I think, are completely fascinating. As you know, our government is now taking a different look at what they call UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomenon, what used to be called UFOs. And they're now going back and they're cataloging things that have been talked about for years and trying to get the story from people who were actually on the scene while they're still alive. Some of these date back to the 50s and 60s, and some of those people are getting up there in age, and so the Air Force is actually seeking them out now to hear their stories Because we believe that the truth is out there, we're going to spend some time telling you one incredible story. You can find the link to this at yourfarm.com. It's from the Daily Mail in the UK, but they do a great job of covering this issue. Here's the headline. Air Force vets testified to witnessing UFOs turn off nuclear warheads. Now, this has been talked about in the UFO world for years. The Pentagon's UFO office is investigating historic reports of mysterious objects interfering with key nuclear missile silos. 2 Air Force veterans told the Daily Mail they have testified to the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, this is known as AARO, A-A-R-O, about their experiences of UFOs interfering with nuclear missiles. This goes back to 1967. You ready? There's another one that involved about 10 warheads being turned off by a UFO at Malmstrom Air Force Base in 67. And then there's another one, Dr. Robert Jacobs has briefed the AARO team on a 35-millimeter film he shot in 1964 that allegedly caught a flying saucer shooting a test missile out of the sky. That is his account. Now let's just go through some of this stuff. First of all, these guys are incredibly grateful that somebody is now willing to take what they said they saw and what they've been talking about and insisting upon all these many years seriously. And I mean, they're very happy to tell their stories. And the director of AARO is a guy named Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick. He's interviewing 9 other witnesses of similar cases, according to author Robert Hastings, who has previously spoken to 167 veterans regarding more than 100 UFO incursions at nuclear weapon sites during the Cold War era and beyond. He wrote a book, and it caught the attention of Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick, and he's begun to reach out with the help of this guy who wrote the book and make contact with these people and get them to tell their stories. And what stories they are. They're incredible, incredible stories. One of them is a guy named Salas, Robert Salas, and his story goes about like this. Okay. I suggested that Kirkpatrick staff first contact former U.S. Air Force ICBM launch officer Bob Salas, who had been on duty during an incident at Malmstrom Air Force Base in Montana, March 24th and 25th of 1967, when an orange disc-shaped UFO had briefly hovered at the front gate of the Oscar Flight Launch Control Facility. Seconds after one of Salas's security police guards frantically called down to the launch capsule to report the UFO to him, all 10 of the ICBMs dropped offline, one after the other. In other words, they were essentially unlaunchable, and it took several hours to repair and retarget them. An investigation was launched by military and voluminous reports were compiled, no explanation was found for these 10 missiles going offline. Again, a guard says, oh my gosh, there's some kind of unidentified flying object at the front gate, and shortly after that, 10 ICBMs went offline. But we know that to be true because there are many reports that were filed talking about, getting them back online. I mean, in the military, they write a report about everything, and there are reports that verified this happened. But curiously, they never really wanted to talk about it. They never wanted to investigate it. They never wanted to connect the UFOs with what happened. And it was such a sensitive thing because you're talking about nuclear weapons that they kept covered up for years and years and years. Salas, in 1996, broke his silence and authored a couple of articles and gave a televised press conference in Washington, D.C., warning about the alleged dire security threat presented by reports of strange discs and orbs that were known to have flown over U.S. nuclear sites with impunity. It's exactly what our Navy pilots are saying happened. All right? Now, this one is really good. This is a guy named Jacobs, Robert Jacobs, another former Air Force officer who testified to Arrow this month. He was in charge of a telescopic camera team that filmed test missile launches at Vandenberg Air Force Base in California back in the 1960s. He claims, excuse me, he claims he reviewed footage of a September 15th, 1964 launch where a disc flew up to a moving missile, shot a series of beams at it, and sped away, causing the dummy warhead to topple out of the sky, the missile to topple out of the sky. We watched the third stage burn out, and into the frame came something else, the former lieutenant, now 84 years old, said in a 2000 interview. It flew into frame. It shot a beam of light at the warhead. Now, remember, all this stuff is flying at several thousand miles an hour, so this thing fires a beam of light at the warhead, hits it, and moves up, fires another beam of light, goes down, fires another beam of light, then flies out the way it came in, and the warhead tumbles out of space. The objects, the points of light we saw, the warhead and so forth, were traveling through subspace about 60 miles straight up, and they were somewhere in the neighborhood of 11,000 to 14,000 miles an hour when this UFO caught up to them, flew in, flew around them, and flew back out. Now, I saw that. I don't give a damn what anybody else says about it. I saw that on film. I was there, says Jacobs. He says at the time he was told to remain quiet about the footage of his boss, by his boss, a Major Florence J. Mansman, who viewed it with him in a meeting with 2 CIA officers in the days after the incident. A Mansman, who died in 2000, confirmed this account in a May 1987 letter to UFO researcher Scott Crane and said he watched the video 4 times before the CIA officers shipped it to an undisclosed location on the East Coast. I ordered Lieutenant Jacobs not to discuss what he saw with anyone because of the nature of the launch, the failure of the launch mission, and the probability that the optical instrumentation showed an interference with normal launch patterns. The object was saucer-shaped. I released the film to the chief scientist, and it went to the East Coast. Now, he told this story again to the guy from Arrow, and he said, I've been trying for over 40 years to get the government to listen to my testimony. And the guy told him, you just did. The government finally listened. I'm not sure what they're going after next, but he has some faith in the organization Arrow as much as I've had in any in the government. Will we start to get these things cataloged? Will we start to get a true accounting of what it is? Now, look, people say, Wilson, you know, you're a little wacko with the UFOs. I hear what you're saying. I get it. But, I mean, there are so many things that our Navy pilots are seeing that they can't explain. I'm not talking about Chinese balloons or some of that stuff that happened a week or 2 ago. I'm talking about things that our Navy pilots have seen that defy explanation. Things that move very fast, seem to defy the laws of physics. They can fly through air. They can go through water at very high speeds. There are just many things that have been now documented that for the very first time our government is said to be looking at. Now, every time they come out with a report, I got to tell you, it's been pretty dry reading. It hasn't been much. But there's a lot of pressure, believe it or not, coming from both sides of the aisle on Capitol Hill to the folks over at the Pentagon saying, no, you need to start taking this seriously. We need to know what this is. We need to know, what it is and what it's not. And we need to start putting together and taking these things seriously. Now, for the first time, it seems that those who want to know what the truth is may soon be getting some answers. Yes, that's what it is. That's exactly what it is. 49 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on SuperTalk 99.7 WTN.
An Amber Alert goes out for a 16-year-old Tennessee teen, and former President Trump visits Ohio today, and a bomb threat in Tennessee. That and more at 6. SuperTalk 99.7 WTN.
You know, talking about the nuclear incidents in the 1960s involving UFOs, you know, we're reminded that we have a nuclear facility just down the road from us here in Nashville, the Oak Ridge National Labs, and there was apparently a fire there involving a processing facility where they process uranium. And according to release from the U.S. Department of Energy's National Security Administration, Nuclear Security Administration, it occurred at 9:14 this morning. A hood fire in building 9212, which is a uranium processing facility, and the building and some nearby areas were evacuated. It was contained to that area, and the cause of the fire not yet known, Patterson said. An investigation is ongoing. No injuries, and air monitors have not alerted officials to any release of radioactivity. So at least there's that. But apparently they're in the process now of building a new facility there to replace the old facility. And the old facility had a fire today. 57 minutes now past the hour of 5 o'clock on SuperTalk 99.7.
It's 6 o'clock. I'm Mac Maury with your top story. 78 degrees right now in Nashville. Weather traffic coming up just a few minutes away. Starting with an Amber Alert that was issued today for a Blount County 16-year-old named Holly Piper. She was last seen around 3 a.m. on February 19th on Cumberland Avenue. She's believed to maybe be with a boy, William, or goes by Dylan Ursey, an 18-year-old. He has a criminal history, including a DUI, multiple counts of aggravated assault, evading arrest, and possession of a firearm during committing a felony. They think that they could believe Piper could be picked up on that day, February 19th, in a white 1999 Dodge Caravan. If you have any information, please call police or the Tennessee Crime Stoppers. Former President Trump visited the Ohio train chemical spill site today to suggest the current president is neglecting the people who live there. Andy Field.
Former President Trump getting a campaign-style welcome to East Palestine, Ohio, then blaming the Biden administration for not helping Ohio recover, and then bringing some of his own aid.
We're bringing thousands of bottles of water, Trump water, actually, most of it.
The former president also criticizing President Biden for attending the NATO summit instead of coming to Ohio.
Trump claimed that the FEMA aid was triggered by his decision to go to Ohio. And News 2 says that a teenage boy allegedly called in a bomb threat against Park Avenue Church in Nashville. The 15-year-old's facing a felony charge after reportedly making the call near his home. Officials say he claimed he was making prank calls. Metro Police take these matters seriously. They say when it comes to these cases, quote, those responsible, once identified, will be prosecuted, end quote. And over to some more crime. There was a shooting on Demonbreun Street just before 1 this morning. It was caught on security cameras. Here's Channel 4's Brendan Tierney.
Metro Police says the shooting started as an argument here outside of 3000 Bar. The security guard of the vape shop next door then threatened to call officers if the men didn't leave. You can see that guard on security video as the white car pulls around the block and shots are fired into the air by a passenger. Police say the man on the sidewalk then pulls out a gun and shoots back, hitting the driver in the leg.
And that 25-year-old driver was dropped at a local hospital shortly after that shooting. They're still searching for the other shooter, who they have now released a photo of. And a unanimous Supreme Court decision deals a blow to people trying to eliminate their debts through bankruptcy in cases involving fraud. Faith Abube brings us some details.
The U.S. Supreme Court has ruled that a California woman has to pay her debts after her now husband committed fraud to sell a house they sold as business partners. The couple filed for bankruptcy after the home buyer received a $200,000 judgment against them. But Kate Bartonworth argued that because she did not know that her then boyfriend intentionally failed to disclose issues with the house, she isn't liable. In the written court opinion, Justice Amy Coney Barrett writes that based on a provision in the U.S. Bankruptcy Code, quote, innocent people are sometimes held liable for fraud they did not personally commit, and if they declare bankruptcy, bars discharge of that debt.
And that's the latest news. Weather's next. I'm Mac Morey, WTN News.
Well, good evening, everyone. 6 minutes, let's call it 7 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk. I'm Brian Wilson. Glad that you're with us as we wrap up the last hour of our big 4-hour extravaganza, bringing you news and information you can use. And we have gone into nighttime mode here in the bucolic Watertown studio.
Yeah, you got the mood lighting on, I see.
Yeah. When it gets dark, I go. It's sort of like, if you ever been on an aircraft carrier or a nuclear submarine or any kind of ship, when they go to battle alert, the light changes.
Yeah. With depth con 4 or whatever.
Let's go to battle lighting, please, and everything goes red.
Yeah.
And well, for me, it goes purple in here.
I don't want to know what that means.
No, I like the color purple. I tried all the other colors, and
does
purple
look
looked
good.
bad.
Yeah,
it looks good. If you want to watch us, try us out. Go to your phone or your computer and watch SuperTalk TV on Facebook, our Facebook page, or our Twitter page, or our YouTube page, or this thing called Twitch. And you'll get a look at what we do. Chris is in the studio in Nashville.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I thought they were going to get you a backdrop.
I thought they were too.
I mean,
I guess it's on
really,
back order. I don't know.
What we're looking at is like a wall with a bunch of pages stuck to it, which
Not
of
the
course
best.
is exactly what a radio station looks like.
That's
I mean,
true,
this is if that picture is exactly what a radio station looks like.
Yep.
They're sort of grubby. They got fingerprints on the window.
They look at all those important papers that no one ever looks at.
Nobody ever looks at.
But they got to stay there. It's very important stuff.
Yeah, so they were supposed to get you a nice, colorful backdrop. And then there was supposed to be a backdrop in the studio as well, main studio.
I'm assuming it's on order. That's all I can tell you.
Well, here in my studio, I have, pictures of guitar heroes of mine. I have an anatomically correct metallic goat named Larry Goatlin.
Mm-hmm.
And an American flag on the back wall, and everything right now is lit purple.
Grogu on the floor next to you.
And Grogu is, been here all day long. Can you see her little head?
Yep.
Yeah, just barely.
Mm-hmm.
If you look close, you can see it right there, just between me and the goat.
She's keeping an eye out. I know what she's doing. She's watching the stairs.
Yeah, because you know what time it is.
Uh-huh.
This is the time of night when a cabana wife comes home.
Yeah.
And she knows the cabana wife will come and rescue her
Mm-hmm.
from the studio at some point. All right. I got a lot of stuff to cover here, a lot of stuff to go. We're just going to, I've sort of rearranged all the big stories that I covered today. I've sort of rearranged them so that we'll just go through them. Then again, we'll be jumping all over the place. But these are the if you just listen to this hour, you will get sort of the best of the other 3 hours. Okay?
Right.
That's the goal. Pete Buttigieg, this guy, I mean, what a piece of work he is. So he's finally going to go to East Palestine, Ohio, on 20 days after the derailment. Gee, don't rush to East Palestine or anything like that. Don't go and show your concern to the people as they're trying to put their lives back together. And finally, when he's finally just sort of beaten up beyond all belief, he's going to go. And he's going to go and he's going to spend half an hour. I think he's going to get yelled at. I think people are really upset about the way the government has responded, how they can't get answers. FEMA is not providing any funds for the people who've lost their homes and access to their homes and the whole 9 yards. I don't think they're going to get anything out of FEMA, and they're mad about it. They say, where is our government in our time of need? That's what they're asking. So last night, after being beat up all day long in every interview he did, when are you going to go? When are you going to go? Well, I don't know, but we'll be going. I am going to go. He was just going out for a little bite of dinner. It looks like with his husband. And it looks like to me, looking at the video, that they were walking along the sidewalk in an area of Washington, D.C. known as DuPont Circle. If you know anything about Washington, you'll know why that's significant. And I'll let you look it up. And this reporter from the Daily Caller sees him and runs over and starts peppering him with questions. Got her phone out. She's asking questions. There's a lot of wind noise in it, but maybe you can pick out some of the things that Mayor Pete had to say was not happy with the Daily Caller reporter.
What do you have to say to the folks in Ohio, East Palestine, who are suffering right now?
Well, I'd refer you to about a dozen interviews I've given today, and if you'd like to arrange a conversation, be sure to reach out to our press office, but I can have that conversation with you. Just walk
You
down
don't
the
have a
street
message
here.
for them?
I do, and I shared it with the press many times today. I'd refer you to those comments.
Would you mind sharing it with us?
No, I'm going to refer you to the comments that I made to the press because right now I'm taking some personal time. And
He's taking some personal time. You know, Mayor Pete has a history of taking a lot of personal time. I mean, that's something he does a lot. Doesn't work very hard. I mean, barely puts in his hours at the office, but he's real big on the personal time. I'm taking a little personal time right now. What about the personal time of the people in Ohio? You know, that's the question.
now I'm taking some personal time, and I'm walking down the street.
Are you going down there?
What's that?
Are you going down there at all?
Yep, I am.
When are you going?
I'll share that when I'm ready.
Okay, thank you.
Can I get a photo of you?
Yeah.
Did you hear that last little thing? He said, "Can I get a photo of you?" And he pulls out his phone and he takes a picture of her.
Can I get a photo of you?
Yeah.
Yeah, she says, "Sure." Well, I think he wanted to go back to his press people and say, "Who is this impertinent reporter who had the temerity to ask me a question on a public street?" Hey, Mayor Pete, as we're often told, no expectation of privacy on a public street. You're out there, you're fair game, my friend. And you know, this reporter was asking the questions that people wanted to know. Well, I guess he woke up this morning and decided he had enough of that, so he says, "I'm going." He's going to be there tomorrow. He's going to visit East Palestine 20 days after the toxic train derailment. Buttigieg earlier in the week said he planned to visit when it was appropriate. I think he's visiting because people have just been on his butt about it. Expected to meet with community members affected by the this will be so carefully choreographed. Yes, they'll find somebody who's going to be a nice photo op. I dare him to walk down the street in East Palestine and meet with people that he just happens upon. No, that's what I hate about these photo ops, I suppose. I'm glad he's going. He needs to go. He needs to, let people know that, what he's going to do for them, I suppose. But I'm telling you, it's a day late and $1 short, and this guy is so incredibly weak as the Secretary of Transportation. I take you now to the blue state of California. Gavin Newsom. This is unbelievable. I mean, we are so blessed here in Middle Tennessee that our state leaders are pretty good about keeping money in the rainy day fund and having a surplus and not operating in the red, operating in the black, making sure that everything adds up. And, we've got a healthy surplus right now, and that's good because, things could get rough. We may be going through a recession before this year's out, and you need to have money stuck back like that. Gavin Newsom, on the other hand, took a $100 billion surplus and turned it into what may be a $30 billion deficit. He told Californians last month to expect a $22.5 billion deficit in the coming fiscal year. But now an office called the Legislative Analyst Office there in California is now predicting it could be worse than 22.5. It could be somewhere around $30 billion. That's what he said, 22.5, but they're saying it could be somewhere around 30 billion plus. I mean, can you imagine? And you know what the problem is? Part of the problem for the state of California is people are leaving, boatloads of people are leaving California and going to places like Tennessee, going to places like, Florida, going to places like Texas. They're checking out of California, and they're going to places where there is not a state income tax, where their money that they sold their houses in California for a healthy profit, and now they can go and they can buy big homes in Texas or in Florida or places like Tennessee and other places, and live very well. And they're doing it, and they're leaving. So many people are leaving that they don't have the tax base that they once had. They were projecting a tax base of a certain amount of money, but a lot of people have left, so that money is leaving with them. It's a bad situation for the state of California. But another true distinction between red states and blue states. Democrat governors running deficits in the blue states, Republican governors meeting their budgets, not overspending, and in many cases, I think you could look around and say they've got budget surpluses, which is what it should be. You know, it's a tough deal to be the governor of California right now. Nobody wants to live there. And they only have themselves to blame. By the way, this Marjorie Taylor Greene comment about, well, we need to have a political divorce. I haven't really gotten into it, but I don't think that's the answer. I don't. But I really wonder, you know, I mean, I hate to sound like this person who is predicting that things are going to get so dire that we have a national divorce. I do think it makes sense for the state of Tennessee, however, to make sure that we are doing everything we need to be as self-sufficient as we can be. I noticed the other day, nobody really has talked about it very much, but in the governor's state of the state address, he said, we're going to build nuclear power plants in Tennessee. And I went, wow, I haven't heard anything about that. And his thought was, we're going to be able to produce electricity for the state of Tennessee to meet our needs going forward. We're not going to rely on somebody else. We're going to take care of ourselves in that regard. I love the idea because I think nuclear power, honestly, is the long-term solution here. We already have nuclear power in the state of Tennessee. I say build some more. Would be the first time that's happened in a long time, and I support the idea. But we should be self-sufficient. I noticed that there's a movement underway now to take some of the surplus and to use it to make up for money that would be lost if we separated ourselves from the Department of Education in Washington. In other words, we get a lot of money from the federal government. If you had tax dollars in Tennessee that could replace that money, then we wouldn't have to take the federal money. And then guess what? We don't have to listen to all the nonsense that goes along, the strings that are attached to those federal dollars. We should be, in this state, whenever we possibly can be, self-sufficient from the federal government. Because who knows what tomorrow is going to bring. Make sure you take care of yourself. And if that's what's behind all this, I think I'm supportive. Of course, I'm a little bit of a prepper, I have to say. But I think you should be prepared for a worst-case scenario. So there you have that. By the way, Lori Lightfoot, while we're talking about Democrats, Lori Lightfoot, the mayor of Chicago, apparently the other day she was out doing a campaign event, and, you know, she's in trouble. She's in real trouble, and she probably will not be reelected. She may be the worst mayor in America. And at a campaign event over the weekend, she said, somebody not named Lightfoot is a vote. If you vote for somebody not named Lightfoot, it's a vote for Chuy Garcia or Paul Vallis. Then went on to say, if you want them controlling your fate and your destiny, then stay home. Then don't vote. She suggested that people not vote unless they were going to vote for her. What a piece of work this woman is. She now says, well, I may have misspoken. Do you think? I think. 20 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on SuperTalk 99.7 WTN. All right, do you sometimes wake yourself up with your own snoring? Is your sleeping partner giving you the sharp elbow in the middle of the night? What about, have you had to sleep on the couch? About time to do something about it, don't you think? Set up an appointment with Dr. Stephen Poss at the Sleep Apnea and TMJ Solutions Clinic. 2 locations for your convenience, one in Brentwood, one in Murfreesboro. He makes a customized FDA-approved mouthpiece proven effective in treating mild to moderate cases of sleep apnea. If you tried the CPAP machine, you know, maybe you want to try this instead. Set up an appointment and find out if this approach will work for you like it worked for me. Here's what Julie said. Since my husband got his mouthpiece, he basically stopped snoring at night. Our bedroom is much quieter. I'm sleeping so much better. He's sleeping better. It's been a win-win for us. So start getting a good night's sleep. Feel more energized during the day. Contact the Sleep Apnea and TMJ Solutions Clinic at your earliest convenience to set up an appointment with Dr. Poss. 615-850-8445. Learn more at drposs.com. $25 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock. You know, a really interesting story about those documents. You know, the classified documents. You know, the classified documents that were stacked up in cardboard boxes right next to the president's.
Corvette. By the way, my Corvette's in the locked garage, okay? So it's not like you're sitting on the street. How that could possibly happen. How anyone could be that irresponsible. What data was in there that may compromise sources and methods? And it's just totally irresponsible.
Well, that's right. And American people are paying attention to this story in a big, big way. According to a story from the INI Tip poll, did Biden's trove of classified documents jeopardize U.S. national security? When polled, more than two-thirds of Americans answered yes, they believe that it has. A fascinating look at the polls. Let me see if I can go through all these numbers for you very quickly. Ask, are you paying attention to the story? As it turns out, Americans are paying pretty close attention to the story, according to Tippin Insights. Among those responding to the poll, which has a margin of error of 2.8 percentage points, 60% said they were following it closely. Some follow. 26% said very closely. 34% said somewhat closely. So it's definitely in the public's eye. They're paying attention to it, even though mainstream media largely not paying much attention to the story at all. But it was the second question that grabbed everybody's attention. How concerned are you that classified documents from Joe Biden's time as vice president, found at his former office and home, may have jeopardized national security? The response was even stronger than the first question. Some 69%, just over two-thirds of those following the story said they were very concerned. 40% said somewhat concerned. 29% about the apparent breach of classified secrecy. And the concern was tripartisan, Democrats 61, Republicans 89, Independents 60. So everybody was at least 60%, with Republicans coming in at 89%, being concerned about that. What a fascinating story this is. I look at it all and I go, conservatives, if you break it down, conservative, moderates, and liberals, how concerned are you that national documents may have jeopardized national security? Conservatives, 90% believe that. Well, I think most of us within the sound of my voice probably feel that way. But the moderates, people in the middle, 61% of them felt that this was something that may have jeopardized national security. And even when you get to liberals, even almost 50% are willing to say that they think it has jeopardized national security. This thing is a bigger story than the mainstream media knows that it is. And isn't it interesting that even though mainstream media, you're talking about your big major newspapers, the three networks, CNN, they're not well, I guess CNN has covered in a fairly aggressive way, but a lot of other places just haven't really spent much time covering it. But somehow, I guess it's social media or other ways, I think people are getting most of their news now from social media. And I think they're reading these stories and they're going, you know what? This is a story that I care deeply about. And so it's a real problem for Biden. And I don't think it's going to go away. I think this thing, again, as we start to do the investigations and Republicans in the House start to look into some of the other sort of auxiliary storylines there, like, okay, University of Delaware, how much Chinese money did it get? Did Joe Biden request it? Is somehow there a connection between Joe Biden, opening up his Biden Center there at the University of Delaware and all of the Chinese donations that suddenly came in when there had never been any before? What about the University of Pennsylvania, the Penn Biden Center? They got a big uptick in Chinese donations after they agreed to do that. Is there a connection? Sure seems like there might be. I sure think that's something worth investigating. And it seems like we have Republican members of Congress who are bound and determined to do just that. So I think this story is far from over. 30 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock.
Hi, I'm Paul Winkler. I've been teaching investing on Nashville airwaves for over 20 years with the Investor Coaching Show. And in that time, I taught a lot about how markets work and how we invest money and academic principles of investing money. But I've also talked an awful lot about how to avoid the mistakes that people often make with their money. Think about it. A lot of people sold out of the market at the worst time when COVID struck, or when TARP happened, the Troubled Asset Relief Program, or gold, they invested in that at the worst time. Bailing out of the market because they were worried about Y2K or 9/11 or jumping into energy stocks or jumping into cryptocurrency. One of the things that I like to do is educate investors because I believe that the more educated you are, The more confident you are, and the more confident you are, the more successful you can be as an investor. Now, I not only do that on our radio show, but we do that in our offices around the Nashville region, 10 offices. To learn more about our approach to investing and financial planning, go to paulwinkler.com and set up a free 15-minute phone call, or you can call 615-851-1950.
Let's talk about D.T. McCall's and Sons. What a great company it is here in Middle Tennessee. Been around for more than 100 years. You know, you don't get to make it to 100 years unless you have a reputation for treating people right. And I think that is their reputation. Listen, I've done a lot of business with D.T. McCall's. If you walk around the vast Wilson Manor, stately Wilson Manor, you'll find a lot of furniture that is and appliances that have been purchased over at D.T. McCall's. Each experience has been a good one. And one of the things I love about it is you get a huge selection of appliances, of furniture when you go there. Have you been to one of their 5 locations? I mean, you really should go and visit these places because, I mean, some of these places are cavernous. You go through one room and you think, well, that's impressive. Then you turn, wow, there's a whole nother room. And then you turn, and there's a whole nother room. And you turn, and there's a whole nother room. It just goes on and on and on. It's really that kind of place. You really got to go there. And the selection made it so easy for Cabana Wife and I to find the things that we both could agree on because we had a lot of things to choose from. And whenever possible, they try to sell products that are made and manufactured in the state of Tennessee. 5 convenient locations in the Middle Tennessee area. Find out about their locations and all the things they can do for your home simply by going to their website, dtmccalls.com. It's 38 minutes past the hour of 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7. Brian Wilson, your friend and radio buddy, still in the chair in our studio here in bucolic Watertown. If you're watching on Super Talk Live right now, TV, you are witnessing me, and right behind me, laying on the floor, lollygagging around, is a bulldog, French bulldog.
She's wondering where Mama is.
She's wondering where Mama. Oh, you just said the. Oh, she heard that. She heard you. Did you see her jump up?
Yeah, she did.
She got ears like a bat. I've never seen anything like it. You know, and then they hear everything. They listen to nothing.
Nothing. Yeah.
No, that's what it is. Yeah, but she's in the background. So if you want to take a quick look, and yes, she's wearing a diaper. It's a cute little diaper, though.
Was it flowery?
Yeah.
Got to be stylish.
She's a woman now. That's all I'll say. And the next time we're going to have puppies. That's what we're going to do that for sure.
All right.
Little bulldog puppies. I got a ton of stuff to go through here, and I'm looking forward to going. And these things sort of all mishmashed together. House Republicans visit Kyiv. I mean, so the president was there, and now right behind them, a group of key Republicans from the House. You know, the thing is about this whole Ukraine thing, we sent $100 billion over there in aid and support and military supplies and all kinds of stuff. And there was a great statistic that I came across yesterday, that if you took that $100 billion and you divided it among all of the congressional districts in the entire country, each congressional district would get $200 million. That tells you a little bit about how much money we have sent to Ukraine. But, I mean, and as controversial it is, I mean, boy, if you start talking among conservatives, you start talking about Ukraine, you quickly find that there are two categories here. There are those who are upset about the spending of money, who feel like that there's a lot of corruption and we shouldn't be supporting Ukraine, and they think that Zelensky is not the man. He's not a hero. They think he's a bad man. I mean, you really hear this, and all of that. I respect that. I respect that argument. But I just want to point out that apparently there are a great number of Republicans who also feel that we need to fight against Russia, etc. I'm not trying to pick a fight, whichever side you're on in that regard. But I think it's interesting that the House Foreign Affairs Committee chairman, Representative Michael McCall, Republican of Texas, and several key Republican lawmakers were there on the heels of Biden's visit to let the people of Ukraine know that there is Republican support as well for what they're doing over there. So I'm not trying to start a fight, but I think it's interesting that we're so divided on that issue. But there's still a lot of money going there, and there is support in Congress to continue that money. Democrats and Republicans getting together to send more money on a regular basis. Russia, may have had, when Putin was out there talking about, getting out of the START treaty, and made those noises yesterday, or I guess the day before, when Biden was giving his big speech in Poland. Apparently now there is a belief that Russia carried out a test of an intercontinental ballistic missile that appears to have failed about the time that Joe Biden was in Ukraine. Russia notified the U.S. in advance of the launch through their deconfliction lines under its new START treaty obligations, adding that such a test is routine. Another official said the test did not pose a risk to the United States, and the U.S. did not view the test as an anomaly or an escalation. The test of the new heavy Sarmat missile, nicknamed the Satan II in the West and capable of delivering multiple nuclear warheads, appears to have failed, officials said. It had been successfully tested before, and it had won. Then this one worked. Had this one worked, officials believe Russian President Vladimir Putin would have highlighted the test in his State of the Nation address on Tuesday. He made no mention of the launch his speech lasted an hour and 45 minutes. If you are among those who are fascinated by and still trying to figure out what exactly happened to Jeffrey Epstein, and you have read these stories about, the things that don't add, I don't think we've gotten the straight stuff there. I don't think he killed himself. I just don't. But, depending on where you are on that, there are a lot of these stories that seem to rotate around Epstein and the Clintons where people die in very mysterious ways. You've seen the stories over the years. Epstein-linked Clinton advisor allegedly hanged himself from a tree after shooting himself in the chest with a shotgun. This goes back to an incident that occurred in May 7th of 2022 in Perryville, Arkansas, to a guy named Mark Middleton, 59, special advisor to former President Bill Clinton in the 1990s, and somebody who had authorized Epstein's visits to the White House 7 out of the 17 times that the infamous pedophile met with top government officials there. Additionally, he was on the flight logs of Epstein's private jet a couple of times. According to the Perry County Sheriff's Office, Middleton was found dead on May 7th, 2022, with a gunshot wound to the chest and an extension cord tying his neck to a tree in Perryville, Arkansas. Sheriff's Deputy Jeremy Lawson's first-hand report on the mysterious death claims, "I could see what at first appeared to be a man sitting near a tree. As my eyes focused better, I could see a rope of some kind going from the tree limb to the bale." Middleton's body was found at the Heifer Ranch after worker Samantha McElroy called police after finding Middleton's abandoned black SUV on the property. "I could see that he had a gunshot wound to the chest and that he had a knot tied in an extension cord that was around his neck, and it was attached to the limb directly above him. Ammunition and a gun case were found in Middleton's vehicle, but the weapon itself never turned up." Despite the confusing details of the case, this is from the post-millennial version of the story, Sheriff Scott Montgomery said Middleton had apparently shot himself in the chest with a shotgun and then somehow hung himself. Okay, what happened to the shotgun? I mean, they say gun earlier, but what they're talking about is actually a shotgun. They found a case for the shotgun and ammunition for the shotgun in the car, but no shotgun. And then also, having been shot in the chest with a shotgun, he also apparently hung himself at the same time. I don't know how this happened. I mean, maybe he tried to hang himself and it failed, and he turned to the shotgun. That's the only thing that potentially makes sense, but who knows? But these reports that are now being gone through raise a lot of questions. And again, it's around somebody who had ties to both Clinton and Epstein, dating back to 1995 when he served at the White House under Bill Clinton. Middleton left the White House in February of 95. The following year, a White House investigation determined he had abused his access to impress business clients. Was one of those business clients Epstein? Leading him to be barred from the executive mansion without senior approval. He has denied the accusations for a long time. So the question becomes, how did he die? Why was he both hung and shot? And where is the weapon? I mean, all of these are pretty good questions, and there seems to be an incredible lack of curiosity about these questions. I don't know. Something doesn't smell right about that. Generally, when something doesn't smell right, it's because you don't have all the facts, and I'm wondering if we'll ever know the facts about this, just like we'll probably never know the facts about what happened to Jeffrey Epstein. Let me very quickly, with time running down in this hour, run over some things that are going on in the state of Tennessee. I told you this stuff all just sort of goes in different directions, but good stuff that's for information for you to know. We had yesterday on the call, on the show, we had the Speaker of the House, Cameron Sexton, who talked about the possibility of medical cannabis in the House as being looked at favorably, not actual marijuana, but, the THC in pill form, or I don't know, the various different ways that you might take it if it were approved. Medical cannabis was approved in the state of Tennessee. And the question is, well, what happens in the Senate? And he said, I'm not sure where it is in the Senate. This story from WKRN, a Republican state senator hopes this will be the year medical cannabis becomes legal in Texas. While the Tennessee Medical Cannabis Act has not voted out of a Senate committee Tuesday, Democrat and Republican lawmakers both appeared to be in support of the bill. I can't believe I'm standing in front of you asking you to vote for a medical cannabis bill, said Senator Janice Bowling, Republican of Tullahoma. That was never on my bucket list. In front of her colleagues, Bowling said that when a fellow GOP lawmaker suggested she look into medical cannabis as part of her efforts to curb opioid use in rural Tennessee counties, she kicked him out of the office. Once I studied it, I called him and apologized and thanked him because I had no idea what I'd been told about medical cannabis through the years. And so, I mean, it looks like medical marijuana, not actual marijuana, but processed in medical form where it can be delivered, is something that may well be happening in Tennessee after all these years. Now, recreational marijuana ain't going to happen. But I'll tell you, been to this rodeo before, and I'll tell you what happens. It starts as a sliding slope. We get to medical marijuana, then we go for the next thing. And the next thing would be, well, let's decriminalize marijuana. And then the next thing is, well, let's just go ahead and make it legal. I'm shocked at the number of states where it is now completely legal. But it is. And it looks like we are now headed down the path toward perhaps having medical marijuana in some form in the state of Tennessee for the very first time. 49 minutes now past the hour of 6 o'clock on SuperTalk. Grace Point Healthcare delivers medicine affordably with menu-style transparent pricing, so you know how much it's going to cost before the care is delivered. They're really big on these smart care plans, and you should really study up on this. $69 a month, you get unlimited office visits and free basic labs for the entire year. There's even a sort of an upgraded smart care plan. For a little more, you get a couple of house visits thrown into that during the year. Who does that? Well, they do that at Grace Point Healthcare. They treat the entire family, even newborns, so they offer family plans as well. Now, here's how it works. You take that smart care plan and you marry it with your high-deductible insurance plan, and you've got something, a 1-2 punch that could save you and your family hundreds of dollars. At Grace Point, they take their time with each patient. They see you the same or next day. No long wait times or crowded wait rooms. They treat naturally whenever possible. It is a military vet-owned practice. Just some of the reasons why it's been voted the best primary care provider by Toast of Music City year after year after year. Grace Point Healthcare is on Main Street in Franklin. Here's the number, 599-6868. That's 599-6868 to schedule a visit. Well, thank you so much for listening to our show or watching our show. We really appreciate it. I'll be back here tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Among our guests tomorrow, Natisha Brooks, a candidate for mayor, a Republican candidate for mayor in the city of Nashville. Should be pretty good. She's one of my favorites at the debate that we did for the District 5 candidates. Well, that was good stuff. So, listen, hope you'll join us then. Have a great night. The one, the only Mark Levin, the great one, is up next. He'll carry on for quite a while. See you tomorrow.